All right, guys, how's it going? Digon here. Why don't you help us out and take a listen to Loco to get the audio correct. Loco, go ahead.
Testing.
Tell me about your Valorant experience yesterday.
Valorant is pretty fun, but I'm not that great at FPS, and it's really hard for me to play FPS games for long hours. So it's been like pretty off and on.
Yeah, I was wondering how your skill set would transition into it. Dom, how about you? Did you play it yet?
I think I was better at it than I thought. Initially, like playing with other people, like at least I wasn't like fucking terrible. I just feel like it's really like just like a boring game. Like I just feel like there's not much going on. You know, it's like every single it's search and destroy. Two sites on most maps, 3 on 1, and it's just like, okay, try to plant the bomb. It's like the same type of shit. I just feel like that type of gameplay is just not like very thought-provoking. Feels like people that have like CS background will just, you know, be fucking gods at it, most likely. I don't feel like the abilities change that much. I feel like most of the abilities are just kind of like what grenades and stuff were in CS.
They're definitely way more utility focused, and none of them can be used in combat pretty much because there's a delay to pulling out your gun. So every time I play with Overwatch or CSGO players, and then the Overwatch players get killed using abilities, they're like, yeah, you try to Overwatch me, but I CSGO'd you.
I think it's okay. I don't know. I don't really understand the hype, to be honest. Like I felt like other games were more unique. It's exactly what I thought it would be. It's like, for example, games like Rainbow Six Siege, I think we're just like better. Like I'm just like, damn, that's just like a, you know, there's more diversity. It doesn't like it. Rainbow Six Siege doesn't feel exactly like CS, right? This feels exactly like CS.
Yeah,
it is definitely CS clone. Even all the guns have like a CS:GO equivalent, and they're like kind of named after CS:GO too.
Yes.
Yeah, operator is the op.
Yeah.
But the mechanics of the game feel really fucking good to play on. Like everything feels like crispy clean. And as someone with like very minimum CS:GO experience, I would say under 100 hours, like I could get the hang of like it just felt like CS:GO but a little bit better.
Yeah, I just feel like it's the same thing with Riot. It's just like no creativity. It's like everything is just a fucking clone. It's like League of Legends, Dota clone, Teamfight Tactics,
and
that's clone.
It's a successful business model.
The biggest company before Riot was Blizzard, and then like they openly talked about it in an interview. Like sometimes like we get ideas from elsewhere and we just do it better and we polish it, and that was like what they did with World of Warcraft. Like they took EverQuest and they just like upped it by 10x, and then it became the biggest game forever for a while. And Riot's just doing the same thing.
I don't know. I mean, I played EverQuest and World of Warcraft. I will say that I think that WoW was more different from EverQuest than Valorant seems from CS:GO, or League seems from Dota. Like I would just say that yeah, Riot is just a company with zero originality is the thing, I would say. Like they just have no one on their like no one thinks for themselves, right? It's just like a bunch of sheep. It's like, all right, let's just do this fucking better. Let's throw money at it and fucking outperform.
I'm sure there's people that think for themselves, but in terms of like their point of view on games, it does seem pretty risk averse, and it seems like, hey, here's like an idea that's extremely successful. Let's just do it better.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that can work, right? And that definitely does work. I just feel like, you know, there will be a company like I feel like that's why like Fortnite was so big, for example, is because the idea of it was just more unique. Like obviously it was a battle royale, so you could compare it to H1Z1, but like the amount of like building, like just like the amount of like things that were in the game, the differences made it, you know, blow up. I feel like games that are gonna blow up, the next game that's gonna be like insane will be a unique idea.
So for Fortnite, what's funny about it is I would say 90% to 95% of the dev time was not worked on the Battle Royale mode. Fortnite is actually like a single player or co-op zombie. It's like a zombie defense. That's why it has so much building in the game, because you're supposed to build a fort and survive from it. And then like the Battle Royale craze with like H1Z1 and PUBG hit very, very late in development, and they're like, hey, we should incorporate this part into the game. And that's like 99.99% of the gameplay that's being played on Fortnite right now. So that's one of the biggest, like, best swerves into like a new game.
Yeah.
So it's more accidental than like, hey, Fortnite Battle Royale would be like a crazy good idea.
I feel like that's like the thing though, is it's like it was a unique idea, you know, like the idea of like a building zombie defense game. Like there really aren't many games of that genre out there. Obviously it's not like something completely unique, like there are like zombie defense games like in COD, etc. But I'd say like for Fortnite, you know, it's just a more fleshed out idea where they wanted to like just make it more interesting. Whereas, yeah, other games are just like clones of each other nowadays.
Yeah. I think where Riot will really struggle is when we move on to a new platform. Like eventually, I do think like VR and mobile gaming is going to be extremely fucking huge, even bigger than PC at a certain point. And I want to see how Riot will adapt to, hey, this is something like completely new territory. How are you going to explore it?
Well, while I was there, Riot had VR. They had VR stuff. They had a VR department. So.
Oh, and before Daniel gets shot.
Yeah. No. That's all I knew. That's all I knew. I just knew that they had a VR department. It wasn't that they were pumping anything crazy out. It was just they're thinking forward. I agree though, like with the CS:GO mechanics, and I can imagine how it gets stale for people. But I also appreciate how they took so much from other places. Like I had to teach someone yesterday, aiming down sights doesn't make, you know, it isn't like Call of Duty where you're basically shooting where you're pointing. It's the same recoil as you would without aiming down sights. It just feels different because you're shooting slower. When you aim down sights, you shoot slower, so the recoil pattern is a little different. But it would be the same recoil pattern if you shot at the same speed, like clicking. So it was just like small things like that to get people from different genres comfortable. But I don't know. I've had trouble trying to see like, hey, how did they make League of Legends players feel comfortable? I don't know if they did.
League is inherently so much easier than Dota. Like Dota has this thing called turn speed, where your champion will take additional time to turn from a certain position to another position. So when you stutter walk, it's completely different. It's even called something different. It's called orb walking because you used to have orb attack and you used to separately use them to turn. Like there's just so much like bullshit in Dota that didn't get transferred into League of Legends. Like sure, League of Legends pickup difficulty might be at like a 5, but Dota was at like an 8 or a 7.
Yeah, no, Dota is just a significantly harder, and I think just Dota is a better game overall than League of Legends. Like it's just more complicated. There's more options, and just like the way that the game functions, it's more punishing. Like just even jungling in Dota is like a whole thing where you have to leash lane minions into the jungle, and then you use like either like tangos or the machete, whatever you want to fucking call it, to kill trees.
Thingies, yeah.
So you kill trees and you drag creeps from camp to camp, whereas League you just fucking walk to the camp and just beat it down. Like, and then when you die in Dota, you lose gold. In League, you don't lose gold when you die, so you can kind of just like, so it's just nowhere close to as punishing. Like you can really get starved out in a Dota game where it's like, oh shit, they're just like camping me, like I'm playing a fucking carry position, I can't get any gold, they're killing me on cooldown, and you just lose the game because you don't get like one item. Like League, it's like you're guaranteed to be getting stronger throughout the game. You know?
Yeah, for Dota, to touch more on what Dom talked about regarding jungling isn't like a natural part of Dota. It's something like the players kind of force. There's neutral minions in the jungle that you're supposed to kill when you get stronger. So people found a way to leash like your own creep minions into the jungle. And then a lot of the champions are inefficient junglers. So sometimes what they'll even do is they'll pull the jungle minion, and if you pull it far enough, a new camp will spawn in its place.
So every minute, so it's not like League where you have to kill it and then in 2.5 minutes it respawns. It's that when you kill it, it's like when every time that that it hits like a minute into the game, so like 1 minute, 2 minutes, etc., the camp will spawn if there's no other units inside the camp. So you have to pull the camp at a certain time, and it's like a whole different like thing. So like that's why I think that Dota is just like so like that's why TI is like my favorite tournaments, because like the people at the highest level of Dota are so much better than like the people at the highest level of League in terms of just like the difference between them and like the average player. There's so much more depth and so much more strategy that goes into that game, so much more coordination. Even the way that the game is played, there's multiple different strategies in terms of like what's available, and this is something that Riot's always tried to push League away from. Like even when 2v1s were a thing in League, they immediately like made systemic changes to the game to make it more like viewer friendly and more standardized. So what they did is they added less armor. They added more armor to the top turret, less armor to the bottom turret, so that the bottom turret is like 80k. Like the dual lane always wants to go bot, because if you try to lane swap, your top turret will just fucking drop, your bot turret will just fucking drop. So there's like so many different things. Whereas, and then like in Dota, for example, you can have tri lanes. You normally play with like 2 supports that are both roaming. like it's just like a way more complicated game, which is just like why it's not as popular, is because it's just so much like harder to like figure out what's going on.
That's like a huge point regarding Dota versus League of Legends. Dota is like more complex, and there are way more ways to be skill expressive. And in League of Legends, views professional play as the biggest tool it has for advertisement, and it really wants to make sure professional play is healthy for solo queue also. So one of the big things with 2v1 is you never see 2v1 in solo queue ever, but you would see 2v1 like 50% of the time in pro play. And it's a terrible advertisement tool if 50% of the time what you're advertising doesn't look like what you're selling. So that was one of the huge reasons Riot touched it. I mean, there's give and take, right? Like we get to work in the biggest game possible. Like we have the healthiest team. There's more people making a full time off of League of Legends than any other game in the world.
Which was part of the reason why I went pro in League of Legends. Is like I originally played Dota competitively when I was like 15, 16 years old. And when League came out, I was like, what the fuck? This is like a game for like mental midgets, you know? Like that's kind of how I viewed it. I was like, this game is so fucking easy in comparison. It's gonna be such like it's gonna be like, you know, a free fucking career for me if I just go into it. So I mean, I'm like, and obviously like it's something that like you can take benefit from, but in terms of like, you know, I'll never respect the top level League player as much as I'll respect the top level Dota player. Like it's just a completely different like skill set. It's like way more difficult to be good at Dota.
There was a huge conversation regarding that between Doublelift and one of the TI winners. I forgot which one it was, but it was from the guy from OG.
Oh, maybe No Tail?
Yeah, maybe No Tail, maybe Seth, but it was regarding like what's harder, Dota or League of Legends. And then in the end, like I kind of agreed with like Doublelift's conclusion, which is League is harder because both games are so hard you can't play perfectly, and it's about playing against the opponent, and League has higher level of competition just due to there being more full-time players.
I don't agree with that, because I feel like League in general, there's less you have to do. I'd say that like League is more about like being able to train your skill set than the way that Dota is hard. Like Dota is like mentally hard, not as much mechanically hard. Like I'd say League is like more mechanically demanding. Also like the things that you said, including turn rate, there's like a natural delay in Dota, which is one of the reasons like I don't like going back to playing Dota. Is like it just feels slow after you've played League. Like every time you click, there's like a 0.5 seconds delay, so it feels like you're perma lagging when you're playing Dota. But League is like more like, you know, Twitch reactions, like hit the skill shot, like dodge a skill shot, like that type of stuff. Whereas like Dota is more like how fucking big is your brain type shit.
But ultimately, like you're doing that against other people, right? And then when you're doing it against other people, and one game has like just so much more professional players and so much more regions, it's inherently going to have higher level of competition.
Yeah, I guess.
There aren't any Korean teams in Dota 2 though. Like,
and there are.
Sorry, no dominant. Yeah, I was gonna say no dominant Korean teams in Dota 2, and that feels weird to me. You know, I just feel like there would be one.
I mean, there's a bunch of Chinese teams.
Yeah,
that are all fucking good.
Yeah.
And Southeast Asian teams are way better in Dota, like comparatively.
The Singapore and the
Fnatic.
So,
yeah.
When I used to play Dota semi-professionally also, and that's when I lived in Singapore, and that's when there was King Surf International, and then there was KS Malaysia, KS Singapore. All the people in Southern East Asia, they were fucking crazy good. Like Ice, I actually used to play against him. Tawi used to be one of my teammates. He played, I think he got third in International 2, and then he also played League of Legends professionally. There's so much fucking good players from like Singapore, Malaysia, that region, because all they did was play Dota.
Yep. Agree.
All right, let's actually talk about League.
Yeah, that was just interesting little side bit things that we chat about when we have the opportunity to. I didn't know both of you guys played Dota 2.
I didn't play Dota 2. I played.
Well,
Dota
no, we played the original Dota, but that's like why we both were like so good at the beginning of League. Like it's such a natural advantage being good at Dota to playing League. Like you just come in and like I'm sure that Loco the first time he played League, he felt the same way where he's like, oh, I can be one of the best in this game.
So I actually wanted to quit playing video games professionally, and it was really hard to quit cold turkey. Like I would play Dota, and I'm like, oh my god, this is way too fucking much. I need to stop. And then I started playing WoW. I'm like, this is way too fucking much. I need to stop. And I couldn't stop cold turkey. I was like, I need to pick up something like really fucking casual that I can't get addicted to, and that's like I viewed as like Candy Crush, which was League of Legends. And then I mean, this shit happened, but
yeah. No, League is super addicting. I mean, there's redeeming qualities to League in general, and just like The best thing for me was like rating system that they rolled out. Like
yeah.
Dota didn't have like original Dota didn't have like ranked. It had like everything was done like third party through like bots, and you had to be in like IRC channels with like the best players in the
Dota
world.
buff.
And there was like it was just like a whole different thing. Whereas League of Legends like gave you a rating system, and I felt like that was like the most, because I was somebody who was like addicted to rating systems, like always, like ever since Warcraft 3, I was just addicted to like the idea of climbing ladders and like trying to prove that you're like the best at something through that. So like when League rolled out like an actual like rating system with like a leaderboard that you could go to online and like ranked games that were match made for you, and you didn't have to, because like you used to have to wait for like hours for top quality games, like when you'd play like the really high level competitive leagues, because there wouldn't be enough people on, etc. And like if you're in a top quality league, there's only like 200 professionals. So the fact that like you just queue up at any time and get a league game was like, holy shit, that's like the most addicting point. I felt like that was like the biggest thing that League of Legends did to like really get people in.
Yeah, so Dota had a lot of disconnects and a lot of leavers, and people could just like make new accounts because majorly everyone played pub games, right? And then to move into better and better in-houses, like there was so much random ass shit you had to do. Like you had to win 20 games of regular Warcraft to get a racial icon, like a night elf, like a orc, like an undead or a human icon.
25, I think.
Or yeah, 20 or 25, and then you could join an in-house league. And then from that in-house league, like you could work up as like
the better in-house leagues.
Yeah, better in-house leagues. Oh, it was so fucking stupid.
Yeah, no, but it was elitist. I think the thing that I liked about it was it was so much better mod, because like in League of Legends, right, like people can be toxic and you get like a chat restriction, then a ban, whatever, where like those types of leagues, like people just knew who the fuck you were, and you were required to play like with a microphone and like join event channel every single time. Like these were just requirements to participate. So like it was hard to get into, and people didn't want to fuck up their thing. Like they didn't want to leave games, they didn't want to like fuck up the game for other people, because it's like shit, like this is a fucking honor. Like you worked your way into those leagues. Whereas like in League of Legends, it's just like, okay, just fucking buy a new account, you know, like that type of shit.
Which we never do, obviously.
Yeah, I never did that in Europe and got banned for it twice.
Again, never do that again. All right, well,
yeah, I definitely do not have people level my accounts anymore.
There's our opening to the mid-season, or I guess mid-playoff version of Facecheck here. Playoffs just completed the bottom bracket elimination. We kicked off with Golden Guardians and FlyQuest. More importantly, the kickoff of Valorant as well, because I think that has to be historically low viewership numbers for a playoffs set. And then
Didn't I call it?
Yeah, you called it. You called it. I just didn't realize it was going to be that low. It looked like a 2-match system, the best of 3 system on the B stream. Like it was very low. It was like 40,000, I think, when I looked. It was
so another, like, Riot just threw them to the wolves, I realized. So the 7th was one of the biggest days for Twitch regarding. They also released Hearthstone, Ashes of Outland, like their newest expansion, and it came with like a new class, Demon Hunter. So it was one of the most hyped up expansions in a while. And Hearthstone also has this like weird calendar year shit where every like point of the year, like it starts with new expansions, and it's like a really good day to start playing. So it was startup year of Phoenix for that, and then the Valorant launch, which was, I heard, the 3rd biggest Twitch event ever. So yeah, right. It's like go. It
was close to League of Legends, right? Wasn't League of Legends the biggest? So
League of Legends biggest, that was during Worlds, right? This is just like a
and then
launch
it was like
event.
Fortnite World Cup right after that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is the alternative, though? Like, this schedule works really well, I believe.
2 best of 5 in one day. I think that might even be better than trying to tackle anything on the 7th.
I don't think that Riot talent would, or the talent managers would want casters to do that. At most, they want to do 6, and they prep for one day of tiebreakers. 4 or
5 casters? Can't they do just 2 teams of casters for each best of 5?
It also goes into like
analyst desk and stuff.
Yeah, analyst desk, and then you're paying overtime for your production staff, things of that nature. Like yeah. I think that's what they think when they go through that process.
I think the thing that it shows is like they're definitely they definitely have the mindset that like spring doesn't matter, right? Like spring, like that's something that's internal to the company. If spring playoffs mattered to them, they wouldn't be competing with themselves for Valorant. But in reality, like because spring is just like, you know, not a hype situation. And I think that it was generally like the consensus that spring shouldn't matter as much, because we've had so many times where like a team gets into worlds that is just very mediocre, like 100 Thieves, for example, in 2018, etc., that they bank off like their spring points. It's like now they just don't give a fuck about spring anymore, and they just don't care about like the health of like their league, really. Like during this, I think it's just like, yeah, just fucking play the games, whatever. Like we'll fucking like see in summer what happens, and like that will be the hype. Like Worlds will be the hype.
Oh my god, I love Daniel's face, and that Daniel's like laughing, and Dom's like, right, think spring doesn't matter. All right, I'll defend it a little bit. I think Worlds matter so fucking much for Riot, and they've done multiple moves to make sure Worlds is like the biggest and the most important tournament. Like whenever international tournaments get brought up, one of the key things that always gets mentioned is it would take away from Worlds. Like Worlds is our premier tournament, and we don't want international matchups before it. So one thing that happened with spring season was, like you said, like 100 Thieves going to Worlds because of them doing well in spring. So they probably wanted to de-incentivize like bad teams going to Worlds because of spring. So that's why they took away the spring points. I don't think they necessarily think spring doesn't matter, but they just think World is so important, and winning spring doesn't directly contribute into, hey, you're going to be a good team during summer and Worlds, because we've seen that so many times, like fail and fail again.
Well, I mean, I think that like if you were a company, right, and you actually cared about both things, you would have just released like Valorant on a Tuesday and then done like LCS on like a Thursday, right? Like they would have just done the games today. So I think that realistically, like the only thing that you can take away from this is that either the company is so dysfunctional that there's no communication between the branches, right? Like that's one option, is that Valorant team does not communicate with the League of Legends side of things, so they're not like planning their schedule in the way to most affect viewership, or the League of Legends viewership is not important to them compared to the Valorant viewership, which could make sense. I mean, Valorant got way more views than the playoffs got. Like I think that day, and people were like, "Oh, it's because it's on a Tuesday." It's not because it was on a Tuesday.
It's because of Valorant and Hearthstone.
It's because of Valorant. I don't really care about Hearthstone. I don't know if Hearthstone really affected much, but I think Valorant like really fucking destroyed the viewership for FlyQuest and Golden Guardians. Like that stream was less viewers than like Monday Night League was getting. Yeah. It was really cringe.
I think it's more of it's not they don't care about spring, they don't care about Golden Guardians FlyQuest. Like they had to kill someone. They had to throw someone to the wolves, and they picked Golden Guardians at FlyQuest.
Why could they not have just released it on a different day? Why not have why not have the 2 playoff matches on Saturday, Sunday, then release Valorant on Monday, have like Monday, Tuesday hype, and then do the playoff matches Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday? Like why not divvy it up if you actually care about both?
I think Valorant has to take precedent because it is such a big project for them, and it is such a huge thing for them, where playoff, it's not like, oh, they fuck playoffs completely, right? They fuck one team or 2 teams with playoffs. I think like the better alternative, like you mentioned, was just have FlyQuest or Golden Guardians on a different day, where it's not overlap with Valorant.
Yeah, I mean, or the thing that would make the most sense is you do spring playoffs and then there's a break, right? There's a break in between seasons, and then you do the Valorant launch in the pocket right there, because then you're gonna have like a little area where there's no league content going on, and there's like still people that want to be hype about something, so you put the Valorant game in that pocket.
So right now is like the perfect time because of all the Twitch viewership being the biggest ever, and then like a perfect time to release Valorant. So one thing that happens in like pandemics and recessions like this is like eventually when people get laid off or people don't have jobs, like at first, like they spend money on leisurely stuff, like the movies or whatever. And like right now in our generation, it's video games and other stuff, video games like online. But right after, like after a few months, like people realize, hey, I don't have a fucking job. It's kind of expensive to spend that $5 to subscribe. It's kind of expensive to continue on with like my Netflix subscription. And then those numbers go down. Like they always get a spike at first during events like this, and it eventually goes down. So I don't think it's possible for them to wait on the Valorant release after like the playoff is done.
So a couple of things, Dom. I think you actually have a point in terms of dysfunction. I think it's a very, very strong word. I think you're talking about 2 levels of like hierarchy and communication. Like when you talk about the Valorant release, to defend Riot a little bit, this is the first time that they've released a completely full game that they have been working on for a long time. TFT was like a quick ship and build as it goes, whereas Valorant has been around for a long time. Like, this has been the game that they were supposed to ship, and now that that moment is coming, that is going to be the priority. But I think that decision gets made at such a higher level than the decision of the schedule, which I think actually gets made by Greeley, the LCS commissioner, and they made that a while back. So Greeley, although high up in the chain, you know, commissioner of the LCS, is not as high up as I think the guys that make the decision on, hey, this is when we're doing Valorant. That to me sounds like almost like a Tryndamere level type decision, maybe a step below Tryndamere.
Well, you know that he's not very involved in what's going on, so that could make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
No, I could blame him for it. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that guy. Fuck that guy. Sure.
There you go.
Agreed.
So I think that's a good point. And also I agree with Loco here, where it's like there's nowhere for anyone to go. They're not going to change it. Another thing, again, goes back to the labor stuff, just kind of the normal working schedule of Riot. They need a day to produce their content. If they don't have time to produce their content from the I guess the quarterfinal elimination games, then it doesn't go out Thursday, Friday. So this or that, the dive, any hype pieces, any interviews with the players, they need a day to do that in terms of production schedule. So I think that's another reason why they didn't think about switching it over. And once they realize, oh shit, Valorant's coming out at this time, someone's got to get screwed. Let's go over the Golden Guardian. Sure, why not? Golden Guardian's FlyQuest. Who's going to watch that? Anyways.
Well, I feel like that was kind of random, right? Yeah, I think that was like kind of random and lucky. Like, what would have prevented? Like, you think that they set this in the last like week, where right after playoffs they set it? Like, I feel like the day must have been set for a while. Like,
I'm sure Valorant Day got set once they knew what was going on around like Corona. They realized, okay, maybe they moved it up a little, or maybe they. So
you think that they knew that they made sure that it wasn't like a TSM playing on that day, like they knew that TSM wasn't somehow going to get like fourth in the regular season.
Say with like TSM and 100 Thieves, I think Riot just would have like switched it around.
Yeah,
I think they would have just switched around with FlyQuest GGS. So if the original schedule was FlyQuest GGS yesterday and TSM 100 Thieves on Valorant Day, I think they would have just been like flippy floppy.
Yeah, actually, I think Valorant probably made their decision first, and then LCS, because I think LCS put out a schedule like right after those matches ended, and as Loco said, I think they were just gonna flip it and put whichever game TSM wasn't on the Wednesday, and whoever the other team was on Thursday, as soon as they figured that out. That to me sounds like something that my bosses would have thought about when I was at Riot. They would have been like, yeah, this is how we're gonna deal with it. All right, done, quick execute, no one will ever know. And that's how it gets done. All right.
You think that it will hurt like the playoffs as a whole? Do you think it will hurt like spring finals, next round of playoffs, etc.? Because I felt like yesterday I still had even when looking at the stream, I felt like my stream, LS's stream, the main LCS stream were still lower viewership than it would have been without Valorant. That's how I felt.
I thought it had 130. Was it 120?
I got up to like 130, 140K, but there was more viewers than that at points during the season with
That's true.
TSM playing. So I thought like a TSM Game 5 could have easily been more hype than that.
One thing I learned regarding like Twitch and regarding big events right now is esports is moving away from Twitch being the primary. There's actually been a lot of split off to YouTube, especially for League of Legends.
Yeah.
And there's also co-streaming. So I think you and LS eat up about 10K viewers each. YouTube eats up, from what I heard, 30%, around that number of viewers. So when we add everything up, it's probably a lot higher than like the direct number we see on the LCS stream right now. So I think it'll be higher than what we're currently seeing when we add everything up. But as for like Valorant taking away LCS viewership, that's hard to think about because how much overlap is there? And there's like so much hype behind Valorant, and for the core league fans will watch. So
yeah,
I don't think it should take away that much. Also, and I think any of the dip we see is just getting spread out.
Like for example, like I had more viewers during like TL versus C9 than I did with this last TSM versus 100 Thieves.
Yeah, but it was a Wednesday. This is the first Wednesday match, right? Like we haven't had a week match.
Do you think that matters that much when everyone's home and it's playoffs?
Like, I don't think everyone's home. I don't think everyone's home yet. Like,
no, I think the habit of it matters so much. Like people being like, oh, Saturday, Sunday, it's fucking league time. You should check your viewership on like the Saturday, Sunday match. And then if it's still dipped, then I actually think then Valorant is affecting it. But I agree with
I think the Valorant will affect it a little bit. I mean, I'm not like mad about it or anything, but I think that Valorant will affect viewership like at least slightly, like maybe like 10 to 20%. lower. That's how I perceive it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll affect it too much. I do know that what is it? TSM will be playing FlyQuest on Sunday. I think it's Sunday because EG and Cloud9 will take care of business on Saturday. And that's where we start. We start with TSM because right after we finished last episode, hot off the press, Loco Doco with the quick image capture, we had a statement. Lena comes out. CEO, leader of TSM, comes out and has a lot
TSM
to say.
must fucking hate me, bro. I just realized this. How much shit have I caused for TSM?
Let's caveat this, okay? So Lena has been streaming, and then one of the TSM people, TSM like subredditors or whatever you want to call it, TSM fans, just made a summary of everything that Lena said from that stream. I didn't watch the stream directly, so whatever this guy said, hopefully he did it correctly. But majority, like other people that were watching the stream were talking about it in the comments. So I think it is like fairly summarized.
All right, so here we go. For all of you that haven't seen it and all of you listening to the audio version, I got you. So today, Lena was around the TSM Discord and gave some interesting insight on players they have tried to get in the past and other stuff about scouting. I'll make a summary for most important points. If they're trying to get a player and it doesn't work most of the time, it's because they're on contracts and an agreement can't be made, not because they don't want to join TSM. So that's kind of tackling like, oh, TSM has this bad stigma. Parth is a great scout. He scouted Broken Blade and Vulcan, but Clutch said no to a huge buyout last year. Cloud9 paid more than $1 million for Vulcan, which we think this is that's public information. TSM approached a lot of EU players, but their contracts were still in play. Parth wanted upset. Huge buyout was offered, but Schalke said no. Offered a lot of money to buy out Vulcan before Smoothie, but Clutch also said no. Parth does a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't know about. He scouted Blabber and Licorice in scouting grounds, but Cloud9 had a higher seed. They signed Blabber first and gave Licorice a full-time position when TSM wanted him to split the time with Hanser before they eventually moved on from Hanser and signed Broken Blade.
Yeah, this was 2018. They asked a lot of top laners to split time with Hanser. They weren't 100% happy with Hanser at the time.
TSM made an offer to one other coach in the offseason, but they were outbid by a ridiculous offer. It wasn't Home. Home's coach of who?
Ohm's coach of fuck. I forget, but he's in China.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was like whole Ohm rumors, and then I was like, yeah, fuck this shit. Like Ohm's married in China. You're just not gonna get a coach from China. So Lena says a ridiculous offer, and it's I know that TSM talked to a few Chinese coaches. They didn't get outbid by a ridiculous offer. They got outbid by a normal Chinese offer.
Oof.
Like they're like, oh my god, this offer's so ridiculous. Where it's like, no, this is just what people get paid in China.
3 more. TSM talked to Mithy about coaching, but he wanted to return to EU. Always looking for people to add to the coaching staff, but no one available at the moment. And poor Mike Young admits Mike Young was bad scouting.
Oh.
Mike Young can't.
They could have left the scouting out of that last word. Like out of that last sentence, you could just leave off scouting. It's more accurate, I would say.
Admits Mike Young was bad.
Yeah, admits Mike Young was bad. Period. Boom. Done.
All right.
All right. Where do you want to start with this?
I think the most interesting thing to me is one, just the release of this in general kind of feels backhanded information, and it feels like it's not going through the proper channels, and then 2, what is this part about Parth like in the middle? Like, is Parth getting a lot of heat right now, or people are
Parth is receiving so much fucking heat right now?
All right, film
I take no responsibility for
film me in, Marco.
So people are just saying Parth is a bad GM, Parth is doing this, Parth is doing that, like Parth is the one ruining TSM, especially because some crackhead talked about how TSM management is fucking up TSM junglers.
Hey, I didn't talk about that. I literally just had a guess, and I asked him normal questions, and I got their response.
Was that with Acadian? Was that
Acadian? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
the crackhead show with Acadian?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Parth, it's been brought more and more to the public light regarding some of the decisions that Parth has made for TSM. I think like the big one that Parth is getting a lot of heat for is the Grig one, where Acadian had a great spring, and then Parth took him on a walk and told him that he's going to be sharing time. So
Yeah.
like, I think that's where people really were like, oh man, TSM's killing confidence of junglers. So
I mean, I don't know what to take away. So pretty much like we have like detailed testament from multiple ex players that there are like problems within management, and then we have TSM management just being like, no, our management is good. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just believe you then. Like what? Like, of course she's not gonna be like, yeah, no, we're actually really bad at what we fucking do, and like we have fundamental like problems within our management, which causes the players that we get to always underperform. No matter who it is that becomes a jungler for us, they always look worse. Oh, guess who we're going to talk about later today? We're going to talk about Dardoch series versus 100 Thieves. Probably not the best Dardoch playoff series I've ever seen in my life. I wonder why that is. So to me, I don't, it's like, of course it's like if somebody says like you're fucking shit at something and then you're like, actually, I'm not shit at it. It's like, okay, well, I guess like
we learned a lot today.
Yeah, like what does this mean to me? It's like look at Sven on your team, look at Sven on another team. Look at what Kabi looked like before your team, look what he looks like on your team. Look at what Dardoch looked like before your team, look at what he looks like on your team.
Look what you did to Yellow Star.
I know Lina wanted to defend Parth, and that's why some of her statements, honestly, don't kill me for this, Lina, but some of the statements seem dumb. And I know she's just doing it to defend Parth, and she just could have done it in a different way because Parth is so good at so many things, and she just mentioned stuff that were either factually incorrect or something like she shouldn't have highlighted, and she should have highlighted like elsewhere. Like Parth brought so much like systematic things to TSM when I first started working with him, and the way he did analysis and the way he worked with stats was just beyond anything other analysts had done. And I was really impressed, and that's why Parth moved up so quickly within TSM. But like this scouting thing, like scouting Licorice, like Licorice was in challenger scene. Like I actually played against I competed against Licorice for that year, and he didn't go to scouting grounds. So I'm not sure why she said they scouted Licorice from scouting ground.
And I think they meant Blabber from scouting grounds. Or wait,
yeah, it's both. Maybe in the statement, it's both. She said both. But I've hosted that scouting grounds. There was no Licorice. It was just Blabber. And Blabber was very much... We had Wiggly on the show, and they drafted Blabber, and that was very weird. That was a very weird situation.
She probably feels a little bit attacked regarding like C9N, because like they took Zben, they're doing well with Zben. They took Svenskeren, they did well with Svenskeren. And then like, oh, they're scouting Licorice, they're scouting Blabber. And then she probably wants to say, hey, we knew and recognized like these players were good also. And that's probably what she was trying to say. And she just didn't say it in the best way. There's this EG guy on Twitter like that said, oh, TSM has really bad PR, like they should take a look at this. I actually agree. I think TSM has really smart people. I genuinely believe like Lina, Reggie, and Parth are smart people. Sometimes
I agree.
Okay. Like sarcastically or actually?
No, I actually agree. I've talked to Parth. I just don't like agree. Like a lot of the decisions he makes, it seems like just don't make sense. Like I don't.
Parth is just doing the wrong job. I think Parth is amazing at so many things, and that's why he's high up at TSM. They just haven't cause everyone. TSM's still a very small company compared to the other teams where they just expanded. TSM still has like core decision makers. TSM still has like the core people that are there, and they wear so many different hats. And because they're great at certain things and they're not great at certain things, sometimes wrong person is doing the wrong job.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It just from me, from talking to players and stuff like this, I think that there's a bad track record with how it is to be on TSM. Like almost every single player I've talked to, and I've talked to multiple, if not, maybe I've talked to every single ex-TSM jungler. I talked to Sven, I talked to Acadian,
Santorin.
I talked to Santorin. I haven't talked to Odd One. I've talked to Amazing. I've talked to almost every single I've talked to almost every single TSM jungler after the tenure, either on camera or privately, and every single one cites like the pressure that goes into playing with TSM and this like fundamental flaw with their idea of how jungle should work in a team environment. So generally speaking, TSM is like obsessed with the idea of perfect play and like what is optimal at all times. So part of being a good jungler is like having good intuition and instincts and being able to like identify, because so in a game, if you have a very basic plan, it's like we drafted like a safe top laner, we're going to play around bot side, right? it's not like you're playing against a fucking retard. Like the other jungler is smart. The other jungler is going to be like, hey, this is probably what their plan is going to be. So in the game, you need to be able to adapt, and you need to have the freedom to go for plays that might appear to be suboptimal in the strategy in an ideal sense. But the fact that you are doing something that is substandard gives you an advantage. So it's like the reason why certain pathing ends up working so well in LCS. One of the paths that's been super effective for FlyQuest, for example, is when Santorin plays Jarvan or Trundle or anything, he starts red buff and then he ganks the opposite
all the way up. Yeah,
and he ganks the opposite side of the map. Is that a fucking good path? No, that's not a great path. That's not an efficient path. But that path, the fact that it's so random, it's so out there, it ends up working so much of the time because he has a good feel for like, hey, this guy's probably not going to be expecting that. No one's going to expect the Trundle to go like, because Trundle is normally like not the best ganker anyway, so no one's going to expect a Trundle to start red buff and then skill pillar level 2 and then gank you top. So like when you're on TSM, you feel like that type of shit will just get you like shit on in a review. It's like, oh, why did you go for this? Like, isn't this not optimal Trundle pathing? And that is like the huge flaw within TSM as a whole, which I think extends to like the whole team, is you can't be obsessed with this idea of perfect play. Perfect play does not exist. You're playing a game versus other people. There's going to be human error in the game, and being able to be like smart, being able to be tricky is super, super important in being able to like get random advantages, right? Like if you look at a team like G2 is such like a ridiculous team in terms of some of the decisions they make. They make such like crazy decisions and they commit to them with so many people that like their freedom and the fact that they have like all these unique setups and they have unique ideas and they all try to execute things makes them such a strong team. That's what's scary to play against G2. Feels like it's never scary to play against TSM for teams. Like, you know exactly what they're going to do. Like, almost every single game.
Who does that fall on?
I want to talk about kind of why and like why it's not they're searching for perfect play. So when I was there, it was more regarding like systems, and we really wanted to build good systems. And that's something Parse was really good at. That's something I was really good at. And we came up with a system that really worked for our team. And then we talked to Bjergsen about it. Bjergsen's someone that's really smart. So he understood what we wanted with it. And I'm sure it affected some way of his thinking. And it was one of the best ways to play back in Season 4, back in Season 5. The only thing I'm shocked about is, sure, that was the best back then, but you made mistakes year after year after year after year. Like, it's what, 2020 now? It's been 5 years since 2015. Like, why are you making the same mistake? The game has changed so much. Like, you've experienced so many junglers and made the same mistake with it. So why is it still this way?
And also, if you look at how it was back then, Korea was so dominant, and Korea had a bunch of like really good systems, right? So modeling yourself directly after Korea made a lot of sense. Over time, teams have gotten better and teams have adapted, and now we see Europe has become a better region than Korea in general, right? Like, Europe has outperformed Korea at the last 3 international tournaments, or 4 maybe international tournaments, and like this, and they're not doing it based on having like the best fucking systems in the world. They do it by just fucking playing the game and just like having the trust in each other that they understand like where there are like unique opportunities, because not everyone will play perfect all the time. So when like and people will be like, and I've seen like the argument, it's like, no dude, it's not that Europe has outperformed Korea, it's just been G2. Bullshit. 2018 was all about Fnatic. Fnatic was the team that got to World Finals. Fnatic like just was just better overall than the rest of the Korean teams at that tournament. So the game used to be a lot more methodical because of like Tracker's Knife and the fact that you could place more vision without the game, so you had more information. So when you have more information, it's easier to play like ideally or whatever, because the enemy is limited.
Yeah, perfect information game.
Yeah, like the enemy is limited in their options because there's so much like information for you on the other side. Now that the game has changed, having this mentality is just super, super, super toxic, I think, because it just makes you super one-dimensional, and you're never able to gain massive advantages because you're so afraid of potentially like fucking up. And it's like, if there is less information, then it's like, oh, well, if we don't see them, don't make a mistake. Where it's like, no, dude, you should just be willing to play the fucking game. If something happens on one side, you try to capitalize on the other side.
That's pretty cool. I really like this insight, and this all makes sense. I've never thought of it that way. in terms of like, okay, there's a framework, but really the best teams now have that framework, but not a clear decision tree in every single situation because of how the game has evolved and how things have changed. And TSM is kind of like a monolithic monument that still is trying to do everything systematically and fits any jungler. And is it just the junglers? Is it all players into this system?
So the two people that I think have the hardest time on TSM in general historically has been the coach and the jungler, because there's a strong system that they want to do, and if the system fucks the jungler a lot of times, and if the coach's point of view on the game and how the coach coaches doesn't fit into the system, they have a really hard time. Like we've seen, I think Tony is a really good coach. From talking to Tony, from talking to people that worked with Tony, from just talking to players that have worked under Tony, they always talk about how Tony gets the best out of them, like Tony believes in them. And Tony didn't get his way on TSM from what I understand. And
he got fired after 1 year. So.
Well, not just getting fired, but while he was on the team, there were a lot of times as Tony, as the head coach, didn't get what he wanted and didn't get what I feel like a head coach should get. So,
I mean, the thing is, like, there has to be, if you're not going to change, man, like if you're changing players and you're changing coaches and changing staff, etc., and you're having the same results, like how could it not have some relation to management? It can't be that unlucky in my mind. It can't be like, oh, well, it's just unlucky 4 seasons in a row.
That's something like that's a given now, right? What are we going to blame? Like, honestly, if you're a TSM homer, if you're a Lina homer, if you're a Parth homer, if you're an Andy homer, then what are you blaming? Just unlucky with junglers 5 years in a row?
Bjergsen, but you're not going to really take a shot at Bjergsen like that. Like, yeah, who does this fall on? And that was my main question. If this is a framework thing, if this is a systematic thing, it sounds like it comes back down to the person that created the system in the first place, which, according to you, Loco, sound like Parth, which was a good thing back in the day. But now it doesn't sound like that.
It's something like a lot of teams also came to the conclusion of, right? Like, it's not like, oh, Parth was like a giga genius and then he figured this out, like, and they're just sticking to it. A lot of people figured it out. A lot of other people had success with it, and they moved on and they adapted.
Yeah, and I think the most criminal thing of this like whole situation about like the Acadian thing was that he was the first jungler that had played with their team in so long that was like Chad jungling, you know, like people like memed about it. They're like, oh, he looks like a fucking Chad, and then like he was like the only jungler that, like, if you go and watch the series, for the most part, he's playing with his fucking dick out on stage. Like, he's actually going for ganks, he's fucking invading, like he's playing like a true jungler. So it seems so weird for them to default from that back to like Grig, which is just like Grig is like the most standard, like, you know, just like average LCS jungler that I've ever seen.
Yeah, when you think about the other top tier jungler in the space, that'd be Blabber. Blabber popping off and really being the alpha in the jungle. And now that you explain this, Loco, that kind of feels like what happened to Juanito Contracts, right? Contracts was a very aggressive, very chat out jungler, and when I would sit in some of the VOD reviews after you'd left, it really felt like he struggled to explain his expression of like, yes, there are more ideal situations, but this is what I was looking at and this is what I felt in the game.
Contracts was a little bit different of a case, I feel like. I understand what you mean because he wanted to play aggressive.
Yeah. But
Contracts didn't learn all the basics that he had to learn while he was on C9. It was actually really weird because I always thought of Contracts as like a really top tier jungler, but without dissing him too much, C9 provided such an ideal environment for a jungler to succeed in, and he had really good teammates. Like, he had Jensen. He's playing with like fucking Sneaky.
I've heard from a lot of people from that team that Contracts was really weak at communicating, which is one of the most important things from jungling.
The other people just made everything so easy for him to do. Like, in terms of communication, in terms of winning lane, in terms of following up, it was just very smooth. And when he had those tools taken away, he still had the mechanical prowess and he still had right ideas, but he couldn't explain his ideas. And the mechanical prowess wouldn't matter because other people won't be able to follow up with him just due to like, you watch me do this and you need to know to do this right away. And yep, like, how the fuck are we supposed to know? Like, we didn't play with you for years.
Yeah, interesting. All right, well, thanks for that insight from me. And I think we've kind of hit this pretty hard here to kick things off on this midweek episode of Facecheck. So Lina,
no one wants to play. No one really wants to play for TSM anymore. That's another thing.
That actually contradicts what she says in the first one.
But like, there's no quantifiable way to check that, right? At least you can go to Schalke and be like, hey, Schalke, did did they make an offer, and then they can lie to you. But like, there's no quantifiable way to know who they reached out to, and I mean, they were like, no, I don't want to.
I mean, yeah, like there has been, like there's
to prove it right. Sorry, to prove it right. There's so many to prove it wrong, like as you're saying. Exactly. But there's no one that's going to prove it right.
You talked to Smithy, right? And it's like, why do you think Smithy went to Immortals and not TSM? Like, it wasn't like he got paid that much more from Immortals. He did get paid more from Immortals, but like, jungling for TSM is not something that like people want to fucking do. Playing for TSM is not something that people really, really want to do. Like, some people want to play with Bjergsen, but when they think of the whole environment, you know, it's like, Sven wanted out a year before. That's why he fucking into them in game 5. You know? It's double agent move. He's just like, yeah, motherfuckers, you're keeping me in contract prison. I'm keeping you hard stuck without a trophy for fucking 3 years. Got him.
To me, it sounds like if you wanted to be the quarterback of like the Cleveland Browns, like no one wants to go play in Cleveland. And right now, no one wants to go play for TSM. Loco, you got anyone to close it up before we move on?
Playing for TSM.
I mean, you did it. You were there. Would you go do it again if they gave you an ideal offer, or is there just like a stigma that's there? Like, does it be like, hey, I want control of the team?
I will say I would work for TSM in a flash, just because I love Andy, and if Andy asked me to, I would do it. But working for TSM and like, it is definitely a lot less attractive than what it was before. There was a time where working for TSM was
because it was like you were gonna win.
Yeah, like, you're gonna win, and you also
you're like it's gonna suck, but you're gonna win.
You had cool jean jackets or jean shirts.
Also, you were gonna get paid the most too. You were literally gonna get paid the most, but now that's not even true anymore. It's not the most attractive team to be on in terms of like hype or viewership or anything regarding that matter. It's not the team like you win the most on, and it's not the team you get paid the most on. So you still have like.
And you have like the most like toxic fucking cancer fan base ever invented in League of Legends. Like, this shit is just crazy, bro. Like, they have they have by far the most delusional subreddit you'll ever see in your fucking life. Like, you should have seen when we broke stories that ended up being corroborated and made sense. Like, you instantly just get shit on in the TSM subreddit.
We got the rumor tag. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, Dom just doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and then everything ends up being accurate. And it's not even like that fan base is like, oh, actually, you know, we were wrong about Dom. You know, like, he actually does know what he's talking about. Like, we just didn't have the information. There's no fucking apology there. It's like, yeah, well, he's still a fucking asshole. It's like, okay, man, whatever you fucking want. Like, this fan base, I just hate more than any. And like, even everyone that plays against TSM, it feels so good beating TSM. They have the most smug, like, cancer fan base you'll ever see.
Okay, let's move on. We were actually, dude, like, we're what? About an hour into broadcast, we still haven't touched on FlyQuest GGS.
Well,
yeah, I mean, that series, there's not much to talk
this was more interesting than that series. It was like last week when I was like, wasted a whole day of my life watching 100 Thieves of Cloud9. It's kind of what it felt like here with Golden Guardians and FlyQuest. Golden Guardians FlyQuest. They played 3-0. Wasn't fully clean by FlyQuest, but a 3-0 regardless. A huge couple of steals there for Santorin, and then Power of Evil on LeBlanc. Destroying everybody in games 2 and 3, and just creating so many openings and so much space there. This was like the Power of Evil that I felt like we wanted to get in the first series, and it wasn't like Golden Glue was having a terrible day in the office in game 1, but then everything kind of went downhill after that.
Yeah, I mean, Power of Evil just outclassed Golden Glue. And one thing I felt about CLG was like, oh man, CLG is getting the best out of Power of Evil. They weren't. This is the best out of Power of Evil. Like, Power of Evil playing LeBlanc and playing Cassidy, he feels like a completely different player. I think it's actually his synergy with Ignar that takes it one step above. And Ignar was so fucking good and so fucking crucial.
So that's what I agree with. Like, I actually don't think the mid difference was that big in this series inherently. Like, the mid difference ended up being really big. But I thought that the reason why Golden Guardians lost was not that Golden Glue was getting outperformed by Power of Evil. It's that their bot was getting fucking dicked. And then Power of Evil was literally laning 3 versus 1 against Golden Glue. Like, it was like how is your mid laner supposed to play the game when your bot lane gets shit on so hard, and then the enemy support is just flashing on mid every 2 seconds. He's just mid the entire fucking game. To me, it was like FBI fucking difference. Not like FBI was just fucking power inting the entire series, just sprinting it in the fucking lane. So how the fuck like is Golden Glue supposed to play the game? Like even if they have a better mid laner, how do they win that series? It's impossible to like if you're playing against a Kassadin and the Kassadin is laning with 3 people and you're alone and you're playing a matchup that's not even like super fucking good or anything. Like what are you supposed to do as the Zoe there? Like I think that it just doesn't make sense to blame Golden Glue for these games. Like sure he didn't play perfectly. He had like small errors, but that's not what lost him the fucking game. What lost him the game was like FBI is literally like just played super horribly the entire series.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks weird because Power Beeble's the one popping off and he's the one getting player of the game, but Ignar's the one that enabled him. And what you said regarding like how do I play against 3v1 in the C9 versus FlyQuest matchup early in the season, I think Niski showed really good examples of how you're supposed to play versus like their duo. It's so fucking obvious that Ignar is coming mid, and you just have to be really wary of it. And there are a few skill checks that you're going to have to do where can you save your flash when he's coming in there with Rakan or Thresh or Blitzcrank. And Niski was able to pass that skill check, and Golden Glue wasn't. And that's why Golden Glue getting killed in a lot of those situations where Niski actually lived.
Well, I mean, I think that a lot of it was also just matchup dependent. Like Golden Glue's playing matchups where he needs to play a lot more aggressively than Niski was. Like Niski wasn't playing. Wasn't Niski playing? Wasn't Niski playing Zoe into Orianna? Let's see.
It was Zoe into something, and then Ignar had
Fly versus C9. Yeah, I mean, but we have to see like what the matchup was. Like, I don't know if that. So it's Zoe into Syndra. Zoe into Syndra is like I think a much different like way that you have to play than Zoe into Kassadin, because Kassadin is like gonna hyperscale on you, so you have to play more aggressively. You have to be like, especially if you're going Doran's Blade Zoe, you have to be like auto attacking him and pressuring him. Whereas like Syndra versus Zoe is kind of like you can both like play from range, and you don't have that pressure on you where you need to like shit on him or he's gonna mass out scale. So I think that's like not completely fair to Golden Glue to characterize them both as like the same situations, because like as a Zoe you don't like you just don't have that option. Also the stun from Syndra, like you can kind of like play around the range of it, whereas Kassadin can just jump forward and EU, and if you get like 80% slowed by fucking Force Pulse, how are you supposed to dodge a Blitzcrank hook? So
I know. I mean, I think we're on the same page. Like Golden Glue made a few mistakes, but ultimately like Ignar is the one that sends it overboard. And my point is Niski actually like stopped that overboarding, and Niski played like Niski just dodged so much skill shots in that game. There's chances where Blitzcrank's coming up with the speed boost and no flash, and Niski doesn't have flash, and he's actually dodging the hook, where that's something like extra to ask from your mid laner, where Golden Glue isn't giving that extra.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just so hard for you to play if your bot lane's getting shit on that hard.
Yeah,
I think that your bot lane should just never be getting shit on as hard as FBI was getting shit on.
Yeah.
He just seems really like not clutch, you know? Like this is like a game where you'd want to see like somebody step up and like play well, and like great players step up and play well in these games. Even like you got to see like moments from Bjergsen in the TSM series.
Yeah.
You got to see Cody's son on 100 Thieves step up a lot of times and play well. And it just seems like FBI is just so like underwhelming as a player. Like he's missing so many Verisolts. He's not flashing in team fights when he's getting flanked by LeBlanc. It just feels like he's just there, you know? He's dead in lane a million times, like to the Blitzcrank. Obviously, the first time you're getting level 2 ganked by Santorin, but I feel like that's not even like obviously I think it's a good path from Santorin, but it's something that you should at least have like some idea of, because he's done it like 5 times out of 18 games or something. He did it to Impact. He's done it to Huni. He's just like, that's something that you have to watch out for when you play against him. Felt like he plays with no respect, and it feels like he's not smart about the game. Like when I watch FBI play, it seems like he's got really good mechanics most of the time, but he's never like it feels like everything surprises him. Straight up. It's like, holy shit, there can't be in this bush. Oh my god, I'm getting ganked. Holy fuck, LeBlanc came from this angle in a team fight. It never feels like he's like, you know, there like thinking about it and like ready to react.
The big one is like the one at Dragon where LeBlanc
and he just gets one shot.
Yeah, he gets one shot.
He's like, I life stealed up. I can get back in there.
Power Evil and Ignite did play really fucking well, and when the mid and the support is playing really well, the enemy AD carry is the one that's gonna look like dog shit. So FBI did play bad, but I thought Ignar played so good. Dude, remember what we talked about in the previous show where I said Ignar looked for like that flash Rakan flank more so than anyone? He got it off so many times in that game. And there's also one where he was versus Kalista Taric, and then he used his charm and then flashes through, so he charms Kalista and then knocks up Taric, so the Kalista can't pull the Taric out during the knockup. Like he was doing some insane fucking shit.
You know what's so weird too is like you could tell that TSM scrimmed FlyQuest from the fact that like Biofrost completely changed his recon style. And when they got the recon in game 3, Biofrost looked for all those flanks, but it just looks so miserable when Biofrost does it for some reason. He just like flash R's, misses the W, and then like E's out, and it's like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Like I don't know why it's so much different when Ignar does it. I guess he's just better mechanically than Biofrost.
Yeah, Ignar's the best recon in NA right now because Vulcan, the other support that's supposed to be really good, isn't playing recon.
Yeah, they don't play Zyricon.
And Core JJ dropped off the face of the earth, so there's no other competition really, but he is the best recon. I also really like the Kassadin game from FlyQuest. Whenever we see Kassadin, they fight so much with Kassadin, like in wrong places. They got the Kassadin ahead, and what they did with it is, okay, we have all this time and space now. Just go bot lane. Just go bot lane, get all your levels. And then he got all the way to level 14 without really being touched. And then they take that one dragon fight where he has stopwatch and he goes from 14 to 16 and then finishes Zhonya's in one go and game over. Like,
but I don't even think that that's that good of a Kassadin game, to be honest.
It's just setting up really well for Kassadin because whenever we see NA Kassadins, it does not look like this. There's fights over and over again on like Kassadin weak timings. I switched over to mid lane in solo queue and it's so fucking frustrating playing Kassadin and having your team fight before your core items. And the funny thing is, like, we see that all the fucking time in LCS whenever Kassadin is picked. Like, they just don't wait for the level 16. It was even happening in LEC last year when Nemesis started playing Kassadin for Fnatic. This was, like, the really disjointed Fnatic where they weren't doing that well before, like, they started doing well. And, yeah, it's just so fucking stupid.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that in general, the Kassadin pick, like, they ended up playing around it well. I just think it was like a bad Kassadin pick, and I feel like a better team should be able to punish it. Like you almost never want to play Kassadin to Maokai. That's really doomed for you because if like you can never R in. If you are anywhere close, you get rooted by Maokai and you just get one shot. Also, like Zoe is not as good of a Kassadin matchup as some of the other ones. Like for example, Azir is a much better Kassadin matchup where like you can survive a lot easier and there's not as much pressure on you. If Ignar is not there so many times, there are windows for Zoe to actually do things to Kassadin. Whereas like Azir, like because of just your kit, you never have the option to ever kill the Kassadin. The other matchup I think is better for a Kassadin would be like a LeBlanc matchup compared to Zoe, just because of just the nature of it. LeBlanc needs to trade and deal damage to you.
Yes, he needs to burst you.
Yeah, and then you just have your shield, so you can never. So like this wasn't even an ideal Kassadin pick. I don't think that this should have worked as well as it did. I think that it's just because
they set up so well for it.
Yeah, it's because Ignar, like they just won bot lane. Like a Blitz, like that is not a great team comp if you think about it, right? It's like Blitzcrank, Kassadin. I forgot what jungler was. Was it Pantheon?
Remember when we talked about like the LPL thing where they pick strong jungler for Kassadin? Even we talk about it like, hey, this is the perfect matchup, but the surrounding pieces for it actually worked out being really good.
Well, I think that the Pantheon, I feel like that's a game where if the other team plays a lot better, that I don't think that's like a necessarily winning draft. The Blitzcrank
from the 2v2,
Blitzcrank, Pantheon, Kassadin versus Maokai, like that is like rough. Like
you have to execute, right? Like I feel like all drafts have
to be ahead
with it.
You have to be ahead, but you have a Kassadin, and you need to somehow get ahead with a Kassadin. Like it should be hard.
Isn't that all Kassadin games? Like you try to take a matchup that's good. Like Zoe, not as good as like the ones you mentioned, especially like the LeBlanc one. Like LeBlanc is like the classic, hey, pick Kassadin here matchup, and you try to get ahead from side lanes and you give back to mid lane. So I think contextually, considering it's Golden Guardians versus FlyQuest, and especially after the first game, I felt like that was the right time for FlyQuest to pull that draft.
The problem there is normally you want to pick Kassadin to minimal CC because Kassadin wants to be able to rift walk forward. Like you have relatively short range on Kassadin. So when you're playing it into like things that can one shot you, there's definitely a world where the enemy team just gets ahead in the early game and you can't ever fight because if you try to like rift walk in, the Kassadin can't even go up, clear the wave or anything. If you rift walk in, you get Verisulted, Maokai, rooted, and you're just dead 100-0. And like so it's a hard Kassadin game in that context, but obviously because they just were winning so hard early game, then it just like scaled for free.
I disagree with like the CC part a bit. Sure, like point and click CC is really bad. I think Maokai is like really bad, but Varus it's very playable against. And then the one point like you actually need to be able to get to is like 2 items plus stopwatch. So it's either Roa tier stopwatch or Roa Seraph stopwatch. Once you get to that point, like CC doesn't matter. So it's kind of like you're still looking for that scaling point. Long as the matchups are fine and you can win side lanes, I think that was a fine side.
Yeah, but then also like you lose 2v2. Like, so I don't prefer the Pantheon, generally speaking, with the Kassadin. I prefer things like Olaf a lot more that are just going to be higher level, that are like stronger, like 1v2, where you can kind of support them. Because Pantheon is somebody that, like, Pantheon is a champion that sets up for other champions, like in terms of like fighting. It's not something that has like damage to purely like one shot somebody like anymore. That's just not what the champion is solid at. The champion is good at like setting up guaranteed CC for 2v2s, which is why you normally pick Pantheon with Zoe, LeBlanc, and Syndra, because their CC is all skill shots. Zoe bubble, LeBlanc E, Syndra stun. So you get guaranteed CC into follow-up CC into kills. But a 2v2 with Pantheon Kassadin is pretty fucking weak, like early game. Like you should not be able to actually like fight that ever. So you need to have like man advantage, which comes from support. But I feel like Blitzcrank obviously has some redeeming qualities into Tahm Kench, but I think if the Tahm Kench plays well enough, it shouldn't be this bad of a situation, because the tech of Blitzcrank is obviously, a lot of people don't know this, but they added shield break to his ulti. So when you play against Tahm Kench, like the Tahm Kench can't ever press E if you have your ult up, because you just break the shield instantly and kill him. So that's why people go Blitzcrank against Tahm Kench. Also, there's like the 2-for-1 where if the Tahm Kench eats early, then you can pull him. So that's like, that makes sense, but you need to like pressure that lane. You have to have like advantages, because in straight up in 2v2, Varus and Tahm Kench is still stronger in terms of just poking back and forth and taking all ins.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the game came down to. Can you get ahead from bot side? But when they have Pantheon Blitzcrank and it's Ignar Centauran, like I think that's a good game plan versus Golden Guardians. Like,
yeah, I think it works for Golden Guardians. I'm just saying that I don't think it's like that great of a strategy in general. Like I think that better teams just win that game. Like I can't see a team in, like, for example, let's say you play against a team that's like really good at playing standard safe and like understands the game. Like Origin, I would say. Like let's say you take Origin from EU and you put Origin against that type of team comp, I feel like Origin just wins the game. You know?
I think this happens a lot whenever you watch a lot of international leagues and then you look at NA and then you're like, why the fuck is NA team doing this? Like this isn't the best for them. A lot of times the NA teams like you're looking at has a lot less tools than the international team, and it just has to fit the situation. So like looking from FlyQuest's point of view, looking from someone that majorly only watches NA, I think like the context for the draft was perfectly fine for them to pull this off in.
I just like the Kassadin comps that they run in Asia a lot more. I think that they're more thought out. They use it as more like a situational counter pick, where this Kassadin was a little bit forced. Like this was not the ideal Kassadin game. This is kind of like a stylish Kassadin game.
Yeah, this was a very stylish game in itself. It's Kalista, Blitzcrank, Pantheon, and Kassadin. They wanted to style on Golden Guardians.
Yeah, it's a style game, but like stylish draft. The reason why I feel like it's stylish is because if you're playing evenly matched and you play just as well as the enemy team,
then you lose.
Yeah,
but you get to look cooler when you win. That's that's the stylish draft.
So
yeah, I'm just like, I don't think that this is like something that they should take away from. Like, I don't think that they outdrafted there, I guess is what my point is.
Yeah, and that was what I was going to get to here in terms of FlyQuest. What is the big takeaway here as they prepare for TSM after dispatching this Golden Guardians team 3-0?
There's like very, very little takeaway, in my opinion, because the way they beat them, right? Win bot lane, send support mid lane, get the jungle bot lane and get ahead from bot side and win mid lane is not a way you can approach TSM. So I think they should get a lot more takeaway from the TSM 100 Thieves game and look at where TSM fucked up, then be like, hey, we can repeat the same kind of strategy we had here versus TSM.
All right. Well, there you go. That was that match. How did we feel about solo moving forward for Viper? That just seems like the way forward, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think Viper has a spot on this team anymore. And also, one thing Solo does, we talk about it all the time, is he asks for resource towards his lane, and it gives FlyQuest a second dimension that
didn't happen at all this series, though.
Yeah,
like this series was straight up like no top lane mattered at all.
Just go bot. Yeah, this series just go bot lane and get
I think Haunter actually played really well this series. Like he took the ass end of the matchup every single time. Right? He played Aatrox into GP. Bad matchup. He played the Maokai, I think, into Aatrox.
He hates Maokai too.
Yeah, bad matchup. I think he took Orin. Was the Orin into Set or was it into Aatrox the first game? I don't remember. It was one of those two. So he took the bad matchup 3 times, and he was closer in CS than he should have been.
FlyQuest Haunter coming to you next split. Just kidding. No information on that. All right, so this one's done and dusted. Let's get to the sexy matchup here. That we didn't think it was going to be sexy. We thought it was going to be clean. We thought we were going to get the 100 Thieves that we actually. Did you call it? I thought we said it was going to be 3-1.
No, remember what I said? I said TSM probably wins, but they throw in manners. I said they would be consistently throwing, and I said it wouldn't be an easy game. I said I'm worried going into it.
I thought FlyQuest versus Golden Guardians was going to be closer, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, it was me and you, Dom. Yeah, it was me and you, Dom, that thought that the FlyQuest Golden Guardians one was going to be closer than 100 Thieves TSM. My bad, Loco. My bad. TSM taking care of business in dramatic fashion. There's so much to unpack here. It was a 5-game series. I wouldn't be surprised if this was, as a viewer, one of the most the best to watch. That was so fun as a neutral. It was so fun to watch both teams continually fuck up and then rise to the occasion, then fuck up again and keep going back and forth. And that game 5 was one to remember.
Yeah. TSM is so fucking bad at like coordination as a team. Like they're just so fucking bad. Like I thought that they would be better than this. Like I thought, well, it's not even that. I just thought that like with the massive leads that they would get from having just much better mid and jungler this series, which I guess like in certain games it didn't work like that. But I'd say Bjergsen was definitely like the hardest carry, right? He got player of the series. His KDA or something was like
Bjergsen
40.
Cody too.
Yeah. I think those were the 2 best players of the series. So Cody really impressed me because he took shit matchups every single time, right? Like Nautilus MF into Varus Tahm Kench is bad. Like you just lose that lane. When you play MF, I think in the last game they played MF Nautilus into Zyricon, and honestly, dude, his support's a Nautilus one trick. Like Stunt can't play anything but Nautilus.
A lot of the bot lane 2v2 matchup, like it is the losing matchup, and it gets turned when you get jungle pressure and when you get mid pressure, and you can push 24/7. Almost every bot lane matchup can be turned, long as you have winning mid and jungle, just due to having river control, and you can push, and the enemy team can't. They could never push. That's also, it's not just the matchup, but also what was going on in mid and jungle fucked them too.
Yeah, I just think that like 100 Thieves, like I don't know how Cody's able to survive these games like most of the time. Like I feel like that's such a testament to how good of an AD Cody's son really is. To be able to like take these shit fucking matchups and have a garbage mid laner for all intents and purposes and still be able to like carry a lot of these games. Like how did he fucking end up carrying that MF game versus Olaf, right? Where like that's such a bad MF game if you think about it. Like how are you supposed to play MF into that team comp? Like it just doesn't make any sense. And then he somehow like you're into what, Kalista Taric as MF Nautilus? You're into Kalista Taric as MF and Nautilus, and the enemy team is an Olaf. Like how do you not just get fucking ran down every single time? Like how are you ending that game like carrying the fucking game by yourself?
So that game is it's a Kalista Taric plus Olaf and Pantheon top, I think. So they have really good dive, but TSM can't coordinate at all. So the big thing with like Olaf and Taric is Olaf is invulnerable. Olaf can't be CC'd, and Taric makes you invulnerable, so you become a fucking god whenever you get both ults activated at the same time. But they could never coordinate it. They could never engage properly. They could.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. It's also like the one thing that we're leaving out is the Pantheon, dude. The Pantheon's ulting him too. He's literally getting 4-man like pushed he's like almost dying at his tier 2 fucking turret. And Azir was there too. He's literally getting 5-man in his lane when he doesn't have flash level 5 and coming out of it alive. How?
There's some things that he did well, but like looking at mid game for that game, later on for that game, TSM just sucks at coordination, and I don't think they realized what kind of comp they had. Dardoch ended up building like Spirit Visage and one more tank items.
He went Rex Glory.
In that game, Olaf has to be full damage. You can't build defensive items when you have Taric. Like you build your aggressive items and you rely on Taric for the invulnerability and you run people down. I feel like TSM just had no idea how to execute that comp. And the worst synergy between TSM is Dardoch with Bio or Dardoch with Kabe.
I think Dardoch just like power into like almost every game of that series. Like what's so crazy about Dardoch is like when I remember watching him before in season 8, season 7, season 6, when he was playing LCS, he was so good in team fights. He was a very good team fighting jungler, right? And he was always able to find engages, but now he's just horrible in team fights. Like his awareness of like who to go on, what to do, like he positions too far forward, gets chunked. Did you see the Gragas ulti in the top fight in the top river fight where they had like Broken Blade flanking? It was in the second game, like where he just E-flashed. Like I'm telling you, like this was the worst ulti I've ever seen. He E-flashed and ultied on top of himself. Like I don't know if it's a misclick or what, but it's like, how did he get so bad at like team fighting? Like he was always so good at doing those things.
Dardoch was always really fucking good at finding the right target and getting onto them. Like his execution trigger is so fucking good. Like whenever he sees the engage, he pulls it right at the perfect time with zero hesitation. I still think he has a lot of that, but he became way more impatient as a player. That's what I've been seeing. Like he picks up fights that he really shouldn't, where Dardoch used to play more of the Nidalee, more of the Graves. Like he would always be getting stronger, and then he just doesn't feel the need to take on bad fights. And it would even work into his like Lee Sin and Gragas and Jarvan games, where he would just do the right pathing, wait for the good fight, wait for the good engage, wait for when people are vulnerable. But he doesn't do that anymore. Whenever he sees something, he will go for it no matter fucking what.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of, just generally speaking, how he plays like the mid game. I think that's the biggest problem with TSM's mid game is like he's always getting chunked. He's always dying randomly. Like how many times does he just die randomly in the jungle now? In this one series, he had like what 4 solo deaths in the jungle alone. How is that excusable? Like that's just not him. That's not him.
At the very fucking least, one thing that I really want to commend TSM for is they went back to something that works, like playing around top side a lot more, and also getting Dardoch.
Oh, I thought they were gonna say having their jungle be the worst player on the team. Damn.
And also getting Dardoch off of Jarvan Seju.
I mean, they played Jarvan in the last game, so
he got Gragas games, he got Olaf games. I was like, holy fuck! I knew for a fact he was gonna go crazy if he played more Jarvan Sejuani.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, this is why they played like that. Even when they played the Rek'Sai game with Kalista and Tahm Kench, like, he's just getting caught, like, nonstop. Like, he's not playing the game where, like, it's so crazy because, like, before, I thought he was, like, a good early game jungler, and then he was, like, complete enough to be, like, mechanically proficient and, like, dodging skill shots in the mid game. But, like, he just doesn't have that, like, Xmithie was so good at this, actually. Like, mid to late game, like, linking with your carries, like, knowing which fights to engage, like, how to play, like as support, like in the team fight, and how to play like frontline without like taking like a lot of damage, etc. But it's so weird to see this whole series and just to think that like generally speaking, Meteos outperformed him this series. That like doesn't make much sense to me. And I don't even think Meteos played like a good series. Like he had an int in game 1, game 4, like he contested the top side and like pretty much lost the game for his team. But Game 5, when it mattered, he played much better. Game 2, Game 3, he's just playing better than Dardoch throughout it. And it's not even like because Meteos is playing well, it's because Dardoch is playing so bad, right? Like, he's just missing so many things. Like, he was mechanically good before, right? Like, wasn't that his thing? Like, wasn't he a mechanically strong jungler? That's how I always perceived him. Yeah. Now he just has relatively bad mechanics.
I think Dardoch was always a mechanically strong jungler with really good instincts. And when those instincts stopped connecting, like, he had to really think about how he's approaching situations. As for mechanics, I still think he's mechanically good, and I think he just underperformed this series.
But he's been underperforming the entire season. Like, and he just does things that don't make sense.
The entire season, he wasn't missing as much skill shots. There were still dumbass Gragas ults, but he was hitting Jarvan EQs a lot better. He was hitting Gragas E's a lot better, where this time, like, he was straight with so many things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've seen him, like, over-engage, dive, like, so many times. Like, I feel like his idea for, like, which engages he should take and which engages he shouldn't is just not there anymore. Even like I thought the biggest int that he had in the 4th game, was that the Olaf game? No, that was the 3rd game. The Olaf game that they played was so weird. Like, you see the dive mid where he just dives with like no one moving close to him.
The turret one. I'm like, what the like that
just doesn't look like him.
If TSM lost, I know people are going to point at game 5 and be like, oh, you should have won game 5. That was the game they should have won.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that like throughout the series, the people that I was most like kind of disheartened by watching was like Kabi and Dardoch. I thought Kabi also like was really weird as an AD carry. Like he doesn't look the same, and even Peter
he takes random ass damage, and he positions so weirdly in team fights where the whole thing was. I'm shocked by his team fighting. I'm not shocked by his laning that much. It's like I was like Kabi's the great team fighter. He's the one you rely on. He's not that reliable.
He's not. That was so weird because Peter Dunn, who was his coach in Splice, even tweeted out like he's like, how much ping is Kabi playing on? Like, I don't know if you can find the tweet, but Peter Dunn would tweet out. He's like,
I'll find it.
How much ping is Kabi playing on? Because I've coached this guy for like years, and I've never seen him not be able to like reactively Xayah ult or like Xayah ult so poorly or position so poorly or like take so much random damage. Like even his like former coaches are like, this looks like a different player than the guy I coach. Kabi was always the player that like wouldn't take much risk, but in like team fights, he would be like mechanically perfect. You know, like that would be his thing, is that he would just be so good at dealing maximum damage and never taking damage, but now he just gets hit by everything. So it's so weird for me to see that, especially game 5. Game 5 was set up for a Kabi carry. Bjergsen had to fucking pull some miracle hero shit out of his ass to win that game. But just seeing like the way that because they all in on him, right? They didn't do the Herald. They didn't swap for Herald. They let him get like 4 or 5 solo plates bot lane, right? He gets bot lane turret. He's up 70 CS in the game. He's up a completed item on Cody, and then Cody outperformed him. That's crazy to me. That doesn't make any sense.
When we get to game 5, I mean, obviously we're gonna have to talk about Cody. What is it? Position. I think Cody missed position for that dragon. What do you think? I read the Reddit thread, and people are like, "Oh, why aren't the tanks blocking?" I'm like, "What the fuck? Tanks should be on dragon." Cody just goes down. Cody goes down, and they know which angle Bjergsen's coming from, and Cody can't.
He wasn't worried about. He had his focus on the wrong person there, but that was like one of his only mistakes this series. Yeah. So like, I don't want to be too hard on Cody for that. Like, yes, he fucked up that one situation. It ended up being big, but like, dude, he's outperforming so hard this entire fucking series.
That felt Sven-esque of a mistake. Not as bad as Sven's was back in the finals, but just like, what are you doing there after what should be a triumphant moment?
They killed 2 people. They killed 2 people. I think one person was chunked. All they had to do is walk down for the dragon, and they know where TSM can approach from.
So what they were worried about there is Cody Sun's focus was on the TP and not on the Zoe. That was his mistake. It's like they saw GP teleport again, and he wanted to be able to like break the fucking home guards and then pop the barrels. So he was positioning in order to like protect his team, but he wasn't considering like the Zoe potentially one-shotting him. So he definitely big mistake by Cody. But it's like, dude, he had no business even being in that game. How the fuck is he able to somehow out damage or like outperform Cody? I don't know if he actually outperformed Kabi in that game, like in terms of damage, but like he was so much more of a threat somehow when the game is not like there for you to carry at all.
The other thing that's really weird for Kabe is Ryoma played terribly with Victor. So when you play versus a good Victor, you feel like his range is infinite. Like this champion feels so fucking bullshit because how they use their lasers, like they're walking away and like doing this like fade away laser that's going across the screen. Ryoma doesn't know how to do that. Ryoma doesn't know how to walk away from the laser, and then he's using it so much like mid distance where his Victor feels very, very short range. Whenever I watch like Frog and Victor, it's like, holy fucking shit, I can't get to this champion.
Yeah. No, I mean, that being said, like it is that was what the whole game was, right? That's like the whole game was, if they fight front to back, then 100 Thieves guaranteed wins because they have 3 tanks. They have way bigger front line. They had the set even build full damage. Also, one thing I wanted to highlight is I think that set built poorly in the game. I don't think he should have built full tank like that. I think there was enough front line on his team that he should have used his advantage because he was so far ahead, right? I think he should have used his advantage. And I talked to some pro players about this afterwards, and everyone that I talked to was saying that he should have won Blade of the Rune King in that game because then the GP is just dead anytime he gets into the side lane versus him. Whereas like when you have Dead Man's Gargoyle, you just have to team fight over and over again, which it makes sense that they can team fight anyway because they already have big front line, right? Sejuani Nautilus is already a big enough front line, and if someday makes himself more of a damage threat and potentially wins the side lane consistently versus GP, I think that that's like a huge advantage. Like I think the Cleaver is fine. Like going Cleaver Blade of the Rune King is kind of the standard build, and then after that you can go like Stoneplate. And I understand Deadman's is an extremely good item for set, but it's kind of more of a support set item in my mind. I just think in that game, Someday was in a position where he could have carried the game.
So that's the game where GP got killed level 2, right? The gank.
Yeah.
And then they had more pressure from set most of the time. I guess him going Blade of the Rune King still would have allowed him to
the thing is like those times where he matched up versus the GP where he was just like chunking him to like, 40% and then backing off, those can be kills with Blade. Blade is so powerful right now. And especially like when you're doing like current health damage versus a champion like GP that only builds health, doesn't build armor, it's really valuable.
One thing I was surprised by is how much time they gave TSM and how much time they gave Golden Glue. Like I feel like Golden Glue or not Golden Glue or Broken Blade. Holy shit, I'm not sure why I said Golden Glue. Like they gave Broken Blade so much time to scale back up. When GP gets dope and GP dies a few times in the early game, GP should be out of the game. He's so item dependent. He's so level dependent. He needs to hit level 13. He needs Trinity Infinity or Trinity Essence. Like he needs to get his 2 items ASAP. And you set him back so much where you can just win the game before that. Like they don't play side lanes enough, and they don't play to keep punishing the GP enough. Like they get him down, and like you said, they kept grouping. Where I feel like don't give him any more time. Make sure like being in side lanes is extremely punishing, and he can't sit there and get the gold. And also like the Ryoma losing so much team fights. Like I just cannot get over Victor players getting caught that much. That's the whole point of Victor. You don't get caught, and you can do damage from infinite range over and over again in team fights.
I mean, it is like one of the harder games. Like I think a really fucking good Victor can carry that game, but it is a game where like there are things to catch. Like like TSM has tools, right? Jarvan, Gangplank ult combined with a Rakan, like that is, and like a Zoe that's pressuring all the time. Like you have stuff there.
They have tools, but Realma's just walking up. Like Realma also has tools. Realma has his team. He has 3 frontliners. He has a longer range, but he's not abusing any of it. So I'm surprised like you're kind of defending Realma on this. I thought his game 5 was kind of atrocious.
Yeah, I thought it was bad. I just think that like in general, it shouldn't be on him to carry that game.
I feel like he didn't do his job. Like given who he was and given how much gold he got, he didn't do his job.
Did he get that much gold throughout the game? It felt like I felt like he was the one that was kind of like getting screwed. That was what was weird about the game, is like the lead was really on all the frontliners for 100 Thieves. Like the set had the advantage, the Sejuani had a big advantage. Like that's where like all the kills like ended up going to. And then like I don't know, for me also, just like with the way the game played out, he needed to go for a Zanya's. I think that the way they could have alleviated some of the pressure is if Someday built like to be more of a threat, because Someday was getting good flanks. Someday was like, able to like get in there, and he was able to like win the side lane. I feel like it's Cody's son did it really well. I was actually really impressed with Cody for being able to like dodge the engages and stuff like that. Because that game is just like what's gonna happen. They're just gonna like flash EQ, Jarvan ult, Rakan's gonna follow it up, GP ult's gonna be on top of you, and then you have to build like a Zanya's third on Victor and stuff like that. So I don't know. I just feel like that's just not the easiest Victor game to play. Like he probably should have played it better, but I think that it's still relatively hard.
It's a harder MF game than it is a harder Victor game, and Cody still was able to do it. Yeah,
but I mean that to me, I felt really bad watching Kabi. Like when I looked at that smug mid laner's face, no, I'm just fucking kidding. But I felt really bad watching Kabi playing this game, because I think that this was like the game where it was just set up for him to carry. They put so much resources into him, and like Stunt, gave him the freebie, gave him that free kill in lane, gave him the actually that wasn't first blood, because first blood was hot, but he gives him a free kill. He gets so many fucking plates. The Xayah was banned all series, right? That's supposed to be Kabi's pick. I think TSM was like 6-0 on Xayah Rakan, the split up until this game. So this is like the Kabi hero moment. It's like, all right, let's see. And then he had that like good play top lane. It was really set up for him to carry. And then it was just like mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. Even like when there was like a random 5 bot, he was just walking through the jungle, got picked. Like he just died so much. And it's like the whole purpose of the TSM bot lane is they're supposed to be stable and self-sufficient. And then TSM's like identity should be playing around topside, getting Broken Blade and Bjergsen ahead. And then like come team fights, Kabi's supposed to be a monster. He just felt like a liability this game. Like it definitely seemed like Cody was a better AD carry than Kabi.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so much problems on TSM right now. One of the other bigger ones is like they don't know how to cut losses. Whenever one person dies on TSM, everyone's like, "Holy fuck, avenge him!"
I think I can mentality.
Yeah, no, they will not let a single person die. I really want the stat for that. What happened? Like we talk about like the Dardoch mistake of inting all the time, or like engaging at the wrong place. They should just let him die.
They did around Baron. That one almost cost them the game too. Like the recall getting slowed, Meteos taking Baron away from him, and then Dardoch just over the wall saying, "This is it," and died. That was crazy.
Even when the Baron one, but also the Bjergsen one too. Like in game 3, where Bjergsen gets caught out on Azir approaching Dragon. TSM just like chain ends afterwards. Like they just cannot let a single person die, and they have to like get something out of the situation.
Sure.
Is that a call thing, or is that just the way that the players are made?
No, it's just it's not like it's a not thinking thing. It's not thinking thing. I feel like it's they see someone die, they're like, we have to get something out of this. Like we can't go down. We need to make sure we're even. If one person dies, like he ate some cooldowns, let's make sure we get some things back.
I think that the way that they've been playing, though, it's been like the deaths have been so atrocious because there's times where like people have to invest a lot of resources to get a kill, and it's like, okay, like we died, but there's not like they can't take Baron or anything, and they use cooldowns, like it's okay. I feel like TSM has the most like really bad deaths where it's like, oh, they just used their normal abilities and killed this guy for walking through the wrong area. That's the problem with their mid game. And then also, they're really bad about playing around their side lane pressure once they get it.
They don't have any side lane pressure. They just group mid, dude.
Yeah, but like, so in that game, in that game one, right? The game one that they ended up winning, the way that should be played out, once they put so much into the Aatrox is huge in that game, right? Like Aatrox is like a full item above Someday, and Aatrox also like just beats Someday in the side lane. The way that game should play out from a macro perspective is you group mid, like S4, you have the Aatrox bot, like you push out top whenever like you ping pong the wave top, like that wave is kind of like irrelevant, but you have control of mid lane, you get vision control of Baron, and then you use the fact that Aatrox can free push against Ornn to force out the Ornn TP. So you push bot lane, and then you have the Aatrox rotate, and you start like some type of fight, or you like use some of your cooldowns, right, to engage on the enemy team, force the Ornn TP, and then you send the Aatrox bot again, and then you just start Baron, and if they try to contest the Baron, the Aatrox TPs, they're all dead because the Ornn has no TP. They don't know how to like do those setups to get those incremental advantages to put the enemy team in like the no-win situation. Like there's they ended up winning through team fights, but you can put the enemy team, and they got like a free Baron at some point, but there's a way through macro you can put the enemy team in a situation where they literally have no good options. Their only option
they don't
is
know how to do that.
Yeah. No, wait. Objection, Your Honor. They did that in game one. In game one, they actually won 3-1 properly, and they stretched 100 Thieves thin, and they forced them in like no win situation. But the hilarious thing is, game two, they did none of that.
They didn't do that in game one. They didn't do it correctly in game one.
Game one with Corki top side and Aatrox bot side, they split them properly, and Corki rotated around the map where they were like, we don't know where Corki went after he pushed. He could be mid or he could be going back top, and they got multiple turrets off of that. They actually played 1-3-1 in game one.
Yeah, they got a couple of the turrets off that, but that was when they were like super strong. And then when Baron spawned, like so they did it like up to a point, right? And then once Baron spawned, that's when Aatrox had this massive lead bot, and he can just force a TP out, and that's when they started grouping mid as 4, and then like they had the 2v2 where Aatrox ended up having to TP into the fight because Dardoch started such a terrible fight where he tried to engage on the Nautilus, and then he just died for free. And then the Ornn was actually rotating before the Aatrox. So normally the way it should work is like if the Ornn decides to try to rotate early because Someday's like smart. So Someday's thinking like, hey, I know what's going to happen. If they push me in and Aatrox rotates for free, I'm going to have to TP, and then they're going to disengage, and then I have no TP, and then my team is fucked. So what should happen if Someday is trying to early rotate there and like catch the play, like, you know, catch the play before it happens, is Broken Blade should just be able to free hit the bottom turret, and he should just take bottom turret for free, the inhibitor turret, and TSM should be able to disengage. It shouldn't be hard to disengage with Gragas Tahm Kench when you have like a Corki, and I think there was a Varus as well. That should be a fine situation for you. But because they keep on like fucking up like individually and stuff, and they don't know like the limits of their macro, or they don't have the overall idea of like, hey, this is like how the next like 5 minutes are going to play out. Like we're going to start a fight, like we're going to use my bot lane pressure. We're going to use my bot lane pressure on Aatrox to get the TP out, and then I'm going to go back bot lane, and then they're going to have no TP, and then we just start Baron on that timing. Like, because they don't have that part of it all mapped out, it ends up being like, hey, this motherfucker had to like, now Broken Blade has no TP, so then Broken Blade has TP at disadvantage, and then they have to send Corki bot, and then Broken Blade's grouping with the team, and then they eventually get some like random Baron because 100 Thieves didn't check in, and they ended up winning the game. But like, that game, that's a no-win situation. And almost every European team can do that. That's the thing. It's like when I look at all of the playoffs teams, even Rogue understands these concepts. And they're probably the weakest team that's still left in playoffs in Europe. Mad Lions understands how to like force out these situations. Origin, this is how Origin wins games. It's like their early game is not super strong, but macro-wise late game, they understand how to get the incremental advantages to put the team in the no-win situation. Fnatic does it. G2 does it. Why does TSM not know how to do it? Like, I feel like this is something that has to come down to like some level of coaching, some level of management, because you need to be able to like teach your players that this is like a simple, very easy, and very powerful macro.
All right, Loco, go ahead, man. People that can't see, Loco's holding back something right now, and it's a big smile.
What Dom says is all true, but I will say, I was smart enough of a coach to coach that. I'm not sure about Song, but I would assume he was a smart enough of a coach to coach that. I'm sure Tony definitely coached that. It's not like
Peter can't coach it.
I think Peter can coach it. I don't think what you're talking about is like revolutionary. I don't think fans should view it as like, oh man, Dom knows something that all these coaches don't.
Yes.
Dom knows something that people don't. This is like very like split push 101. This is very like macro 101. You have the stronger split pusher, draw people, like do it, damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Like
this is Loco saying it's fucking Bjergsen's fault. Get him off the team. He's the link. It's not the coaches. It's Bjergsen who doesn't know.
He's been there the entire time. You know, that must be it.
It's Loco saying like this isn't anything special. It is actually a fucking mystery why it can't get done.
That's my whole point. My whole point is like 5 teams in Europe that are left in playoffs can do it.
But it can't just be a mystery, Logo. It has to be someone's fault.
So I will explain from my perspective. When I coached, we had Dyrus. When we did that in split push situation, Dyrus either wouldn't call for it or we wouldn't have the stronger split pusher enough of the time for us to actually do it. I'm not sure why it is so for these new iterations of TSM, but I don't know, but it is what it is.
Yeah, TSM used to be way better at that type of stuff. Maybe it was Loco's coaching.
Maybe.
Bring it is. Back. Hey, yeah, Reggie, just pay him a lot of money. He said he'll go ahead and join today. You know, you went after a whole bunch of other Chinese coaches. You ended up with Peter. You could get the Korean coach right here who understands your team and has led them to championships.
Yep. The thing is about
and your team recently was rumored to have girl problems. Loco has a lot of experience with girl problems himself. He'll be able to help them in that regard.
He claimed it yesterday or last show.
He has a lot of connections to girls. Problems. You know, if they're having like a problem with one girl split between like multiple team members, he can just get a couple other girls in there so everyone feels satisfied. Like I honestly think that there is like merit towards.
He'll selflessly sacrifice himself and say, "He, you know what? Don't deal with these couple of players. Just you can come here. I'll go ahead and sacrifice myself for that." TSM, man, your championship awaits you in summer. The split that matters.
Hard agree. Hard agree.
I just, to me, it's interesting that you're like you're so definitive on so many other things, Loco, and you're like, it's a mystery. Shrug. You're protecting somebody, or you don't want to take a shot at somebody. Like to me, that's what it feels like.
It's just a mystery. Mysteries in life, Daniel.
All right. Well,
why does the toast always land butter side up? It's a fucking mystery.
All right. Well,
what is that? Is that a reference?
I don't know. I don't know, dude. I think
toast always. Wait, I'm googling. The toast always lands butter side up.
TSM, get your ducks in order. Come go get Loco.
That's an actually thing, though, right? Toast always or butter side down, not butter side up. Okay.
Oh wait, so it's the opposite. Okay.
Yeah. Something like that.
The buttered toast phenomenon. Holy shit. Only Loco would reference the buttered toast phenomenon in the League podcast. My God.
All right. I think we've dove a lot into this specific series. Big takeaways are that Kabe's shook. They still don't know how to play macro to choke him out. They know how to play macro a little bit, definitely early on, but to choke him out, not so much.
Oh, wait. One thing I really wanted to touch regarding this series. Remember what we said regarding TSM and systems? When there's less variables and the system is simple, TSM is fucking great at it. I think we saw that a lot in some of the early games they pulled off.
Yeah, like game 4.
The Rek'Sai one, there's one more. The Olaf one, they're like, we have strong early game jungle. This is how we play around strong early game jungle. This is the lane that that's really gankable. They do it perfectly. But they don't know how to do things beyond that.
Well, I think their bot lane is really bad at pushing leads. Their bot lane just exists. Like when you have Kalista Taric is like, that's a win condition right there. You watch good Kalista Taric players, that shit can pressure the entire fucking game, right?
Yeah, but it's good in lane, good in team fights. TSM's not really good in team fights.
But they just don't extend the advantage. It's just like, okay, they got the lead and they're rotating and now they're farming and they're outscaled. Like, it's like, wait, isn't there like a point where you keep on pushing it? Like I feel like there isn't that random point where you just like have to keep on farming and get outscaled. It's like, hey, we have the Kalista, they can never fight us. We do Baron, we do Dragon. Like, you do something to force the enemy team to fight into the Kalista while the Kalista is still strong. Like, bro, go watch G2 versus Mad Lions and look at kha'zix Kalista. That shit is like, that's a real fucking Kalista there, you know? Like, that's the scary Kalista where it's like, yeah, no, it got to the point where he's just too far ahead. Guess we just lose.
Let's not compare TSM to EU teams right now. I'm already depressed with this.
TSM to Mad Lions. This is the state we're in. All right. Well,
remember when TSM versus Rogue used to be a joke?
Yeah, but that still was a joke in the context of when that was, right? Like,
yeah, at that point it was a joke. It's not a joke anymore.
I mean, Rogue is good. I don't know if they would still win 8 out of 10 versus TSM right now. Like, Rogue is not a team that you feel confident in winning every game. For example, they have a lot of mistakes. So like Rogue beats themselves more often than the other team beats them. So that's like why I view Rogue as like not the type of team that can like, 80-20 a team. I feel like the teams that could 80-20 a team like I would say Origin would have a higher chance of 80-20ing TSM than Rogue would, just because Rogue just like will randomly fuck up things like within draft or within the game, and they'll just make the game unwinnable for themselves.
Look what you guys have done. All the Lek boys coming out of the woodwork here in Twitch chat. LOL, TSM.
Yeah.
8 and 10 or whatever.
Like, is that a bad comparison? Like, do you think that TSM, this team with so many veteran players, like the longest standing professional player, like in terms of like top level competition, so I'm not counting national leagues, on Mad Lions is Humanoid. He's been playing for a year and not even a half yet. He's been playing for less than a year and a half. How are they so much better and so much more intelligent about the game than this team of TSM filled with the veterans? Bjergsen's been playing since I was playing, bro. This guy's a fucking dinosaur. You have Broken Blade. He's been playing for like he's been playing for 2 years now. Like, he's been playing the same amount of time as Humanoid, and he's also somebody that played in Turkey. So if you want to consider that, he has a decent amount of fucking experience there. Dardock's been playing 5 years. Biofrost's been playing 5 years. Kabi's been playing for 5 years. Why is Mad Lions have better idea of macro? Like, shouldn't Mad Lions be like young mechanical gods, but that are like dumb about the game?
Do I hear?
That's how things work, right? Like, aren't you supposed to be like elevating your game knowledge as you become like a longer standing player?
Do I hear now Dom hopping on the Bjergsen hate train too? Not maybe hate train, but just like, No,
I'm on the TSM. Like, together. I just don't know. That's my it's a question. It's like, okay. Why are they so bad macro wise compared to like a team like Mad Lions?
Again,
why is Mad Lions so much better at like understanding how the overall game works? Like, I don't know what it can be.
Love me
is
some
it just
Bjergsen.
Egos?
Love me some
between
Bjergsen.
like TSM. Like, what could it possibly be?
It just seems like there's one long standing connection throughout all of it, even during Loco's time. I guess a little bit because Dyrus couldn't play, so Loco gave some context. And don't get me wrong either, Bjergsen still carried the shit out of the game. He would put himself in position to make those types of game-saving plays, and I still consider him one of the hardest working players in the LCS, great captain, all those things, but there's kind of a correlation of how he's learned how to play the game. And we've said the framework has been there from Parth. Well, the framework's also been there from Bjergsen. He's one that has to execute it cross multiple coaches, cross multiple junglers, cross multiple teammates. Kind of an interesting look here, I think, as you said, a dinosaur, someone that's been playing for such a long time. Like, why do other long-time players stop? A lot of the time it's mechanics, maybe it's drive, but it's not game knowledge. But maybe his game knowledge is actually not knowledge, but framework is kind of slowing things down here.
I think
I feel like
regarding the split push situation, it's something the split pusher himself talking about makes it a lot easier, right?
TSM looks like a rookie team. They're good early game, and then they throw throughout the game over and over again. That's how they look to me.
TSM looks like a Dardock team. I think that's a commonality with almost all Dardock teams.
Really?
Yeah. Almost all Dardock teams. Immortals, Echo Fox,
CLG.
But
I always felt like he was one of like, I thought that normally came from him having like bad carry players though. That's how I perceived it. It's like he didn't have strong carries.
Look, that's a good point actually. I think that's a really good point.
No. I would say Phoenix, Piglet were stronger they were definitely top tier carries for their era.
Mm-hmm. But that was when Dardock was a pure rookie. I'm like
Bjergsen Kabe, who Pobelt, he had who did he have on Echo Fox? He had
Huni, but then he also had Demonte slash I think Apollo. Was it Apollo for Echo Fox then? Who was there? AD carry 2018.
Who?
Echo Fox.
Altec,
yeah.
Yeah, Altec. Like, I don't think he had like below average. If you average out the mid and 80 carry players Dardock has had over the years, I don't think he has below average mid and 80 carry.
I don't think it's below average. I think it's just worse than like the top tier. So like when Echo Fox got third in 2018, I was like, yeah, that makes sense because the other like carry players on the other team was Cody Sun, who was popping off, compared to like Altec that was kind of like mediocre, and then it was like Double Lift was the other AD carry, and then the mid lanes were like Phoenix, which I felt like Phoenix was the worst mid laner at that time. Then like he was good in lane, but overall I'd say like Ryu is just playing better. Like Ryu is just super consistent. You know, he was like, I think that meta also favored him. So
Yeah.
to me, like I like it kind of made sense their placing. Like, but now it just looks like he just ints the game. Like it looks way worse than it did before from like the eye test.
I'm still.
I don't know. I think Dardoch teams just have this trait. It's part of how Dardoch plays. It's part of how he communicates also.
That's what I was gonna say. It always feels like when I was like, "Hey, that's a good point, Loco." It always feels like the team is in a growing pain period. It's never like, "Yo, Dardoch's here. He's gonna fuck shit up," and it like we're locked in and we know how we're gonna play. It's like, "Oh, how do we fit in this?"
In review and during the gameplay itself, Dardoch will put pressure on the team if something isn't getting done.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if he's just like hitting fucking Kabi with, you know, the bye piggy. He hits him with the bye Kabi. You think that goes through and like Kabi's solo rotating through the jungle?
I think Dardoch
bye Kabi.
Dardoch initially is hyper aggressive regarding criticism in game and outside of game, and then he'll get reprimanded, and then he'll start doing it passively aggressively, and then he'll do it sarcastically,
and then it gets killed.
That's the common pattern. I actually heard it in Echo Fox. I heard it in Immortals. I heard it in CLG. I experienced it in TL. If behavior has changed, I'm not sure if the behavior has changed, but that's just been what the previous things have been.
I don't know. You know what's weird is like I feel like TSM like could be hiding something. Just like the way that they do things, like they always just like they don't like clip in a lot of like the things that they used to clip in, like reviews and things like that. They're just
in Legends.
Yeah. I've been watching all the Legends episodes, and it's literally just like Broken Blade in random places, just saying like
funny
just
things.
like troll quotes. It's like it's just like TSM Legends is just
Don't
like
forget to touch your boys.
Yeah, it's like Broken Blade, just like, hey, and we're here at LCS, and thank you for watching TSM Legends. Like, yeah, thank you for watching TSM Legends. And he's just like, in the review, it's like, yeah, you know, we won today. I appreciate all you guys watching TSM Legends. That's the whole fucking show. It's just BB Legends.
It's no more pull back the curtain. Let's get that raw, gritty conversations of like what everyone did wrong. I still vividly remember Reggie being like, why do you have the potion? You could sell that and get a ward. We wouldn't die. What are you thinking? I was like, God damn, that's like such a small detail, but that's how.
That's pretty big. I think. I think that like players need to like know that at this point. Like, sell your fucking Doran, sell your potions, sell whatever the fuck for pink wards, bro. That shit matters.
I remember Andy has really good fundamentals on the game, but sometimes it's outdated. I remember Andy coming in and helping. He's like, yeah, why didn't he buy fucking Wars here? I'm like, Andy, you can't buy Wars anymore.
What? No way. I don't believe that. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I love it when Daddy Reggie comes down and tries to help with the calculus homework.
It was a long time ago. I'm sure, like, from what I understand, Andy has been very, very hands-off this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it. And they made themselves to the playoffs.
He's been very busy with other projects, so I don't even think he has time to come over. And I don't think he even wants to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I feel like we've sputtered on this pretty long. I'm still reeling from the fact that I said maybe Bjergsen's a problem. I might have to go buy a Bjergsen jersey now. I'm a fan of Bjergsen, but it's just the correlation, right? We've gone through. I mean,
he's saving this team.
He is saving this team, but I feel like it's.
And this is what I hate about
the
the TSM hate on Bjergsen is he's always been the best part of this team. Whenever they fall short, he's still performing the best in these games. It's like everyone can hit, and for some reason because he's been there the whole time, it's like he gets the blame. It's like if they lost the series.
I guess I don't know, man. The 6 trophies are on him.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're gonna blame him for your failures, well, also
wait, does he have 6? I thought he only had 5. He has 6.
He has 5, but TSM has 6 total.
Okay, so the 5 trophies are on him.
Yeah,
I'm down with that too. I think he did most of that, you know. So, and maybe I'm just starting to realize what it's like to be part of the hive mind here. The TSM Reddit subreddit hive mind, and just put
TSM
things
Reddit's
together.
just fucking garbage.
Yeah, no, they're really troll.
TSM subreddit's garbage. Team Liquid subreddit's garbage. League of Legends subreddit's garbage.
All the places that Loco's coached places are subreddits are garbage.
And most subreddits just turn out to be
The
garbage.
Gold Coin United subreddit is garbage.
It's just because anyone can join. It's like there's no credentials that you need to actually post on a subreddit, and you can just criticize anyone freely.
No, not only that, it's also like people have like dumb ideas and they order those dumb ideas, and the other people with the same fucking dumb ideas just upvote it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's the thing that was like, I think that was always just like a motivation for me to like, you know, I think that seeing how dumb the community is, because I'm somebody that doesn't have like even when I was like rank 1, I didn't have like super high self-esteem, but just seeing how stupid the average like person was on like Reddit and then like League of Legends forums, which used to be big back then, like was huge motivation for me. I feel like most people just have this idea that they know what they're talking about, and then they like a lot of the people that like statistically, most of the people posting on Reddit probably can't even hit diamond in this game, and then they just talk like they know more than the pro players.
That's crazy.
Yep.
All right, let's bounce out of TSM 100 Thieves and look forward to the matches this weekend. Just a quick touch because we'll be covering these games again on, I think that was it for the weekday matches, right? Now we're back on to weekend matches. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have your eliminator, your third place eliminator Saturday and the finals the week after that. Right? Yeah, I think that's how it works. I'll double check in on all esports afterwards. But Cloud9, EG, these two teams booked their tickets to the winter finals last week. The higher seeds of both their matches took care of business. This should be work as usual here for Cloud9, but against what we think is the best opponent for them so far in the playoffs.
It's a 3-1 if EG's lucky. It's a 3-0 most likely.
C9 EG. Where does EG win?
Top.
Where does EG win? Top? What?
I think top if Kumo has the same type of trajectory that he had as last week. I think that is a place they could possibly exploit. Stepped up
super hard. I mean, it has to be wins through
mid.
It has to be win through mid and then transferring it to bot. Like it has to be like Pantheon to Leah type shit, going onto bot like set plays. Has to have draft edge. You need to have draft edge and you have to win through Jizuke and Bang. That's it.
EG drafts have been a little bit more flairful. Like they use like good picks that other people don't use. So I have some hopes there, but this one's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
Oh, I lied.
It's such a bad situation for them. I mean, last time they played, they got stomped, but they only got stomped because they only got stomped that hard because they played like the KO mid. It felt like. I feel like if they go for like stronger mid lane picks, you got to give Jizuke a counter, and then like maybe they can exploit like a blue side draft. You know, like the set flex is good for them. I think that they have actually pretty strong drafting in this meta, which is why you've seen like the upswing for EG. They can play all the OP shit. They can play Kalista really well. They can play Set in multiple different lanes. They save their counter pick for Jizuke. He plays a lot of counter picks. He can play into pretty much any type of champion. And then right now, Sven plays everything that's OP. He plays the Pantheon, he plays the Gragas, all that shit. So I think it's pretty good for him.
Yeah. And Bang also plays everything that's OP. You mentioned Kalista, Aphilio, Senna. Like they're really in line with the meta, but the problem is C9's also really in line with the meta.
The only thing that they can't play in the meta right now, I think, is Kalista top. Like I think Kalista doesn't have as high value for EG, but the fact that they can play it so well with Taric and Set means that they can just pretty much put it bot no matter what, and they should be okay.
I still have C9. Like what? I think C9 3-1. They'll drop a game.
You think they'll drop a game?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll go C9 3-1, but I don't think it'll be like a close series at all. Like the one game will be like, okay, run it back with a better team comp, we win.
All right, there you go. 3-1 Cloud9 EG. That'll be your match on Saturday. On Sunday, TSM and FlyQuest in the elimination match.
I want to go first.
To make it to the third place game. Go ahead.
I think FlyQuest wins 3-1.
Oh!
I think the way 100 Thieves played wasn't that great, and TSM kept throwing. Things aren't going to get better for TSM. Like, I think FlyQuest will win.
the hard part for TSM here is like they won because they had like much better mid throughout the series. Well, I mean, obviously, like Ryoma had like a good game in there, but I'd say overall, like, you know, Ryoma just farmed in one of the wins as Azir and like they're never able to get an advantage. Power of Evil is just so much better than Ryoma, so you don't have as much advantages anymore. And TSM's bot lane seems like a big issue. I guess I'll go FlyQuest 3-2. I don't think FlyQuest is that good in terms of like setting up plays and things like that. I think that FlyQuest just wins a lot based off like just having like players just play free, you know? Like I don't think that FlyQuest is a team that's gonna like macro you to death. It's kind of like Ignar's just gonna do some weird shit and get leads. But I think that'll work on TSM. But I think it'll be a close series. And I mean, I just hope that TSM wins because it'll be more hype if TSM wins. Like everyone wants TSM C9 final, it feels like. Mm-hmm. And the team that, because TSM has the best early game and they can actually potentially like carry the entire game, TSM is a team that's the most scary to C9. And I feel like that is why like we would prefer that matchup, you know? Like if you will watch C9's Roundtable, which is their show where it's like a piece of content they do, all of the C9 players have TSM making finals against them. They think TSM's the second best team. But the thing is, like, when push comes to shove, TSM's like the type of team that plays to the level of their competition.
This TSM is not consistent enough.
Yeah.
I feel like everything you said regarding early game is true.
No, they'll do something disappointing. That's like why I think they'll lose to FlyQuest is because they'll just always disappoint you, you know?
Their mid game they cannot make right decisions.
Mm-hmm. Like, but they're gonna lose the FlyQuest, and it's gonna be like just if they lost 100 Thieves, where it's like, oh, you probably shouldn't have lost that series. You know, like 100 Thieves, that series should not have been close. TSM won the first 4 early games hard as fuck. They won the first 4 early games hard as fuck, and then they dropped 2 out of the first 3 games when they're smashing early game every single time.
I called it though. I said they would win early and they would throw.
But yeah, but that's what they've been doing the entire series, the entire season. I just feel like it's. Yeah, I just feel like at some point, like you should be able to work on that, right? Like that should be easy to work on.
Who's
the hardest part about League of Legends should be getting the advantage early.
No, it's not easy to fix if it's a consistent problem you've been having. If it's a consistent problem you've been having, then there's something fundamentally wrong with how you're approaching the game, or a skill set that's missing, and it takes too long of a time to build or too long of a time to fix.
That made you sound like future coach TSM right here. Knows how to fix it.
Stop fucking pushing it.
Yes.
No, I'm not going back.
It's gonna have like different references. It'd be like the e-girl always lands face down. It's like, wait, what? Like, what are you saying, Loco? Like, I don't understand.
What the fuck are you saying?
I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to follow you on this one.
Who has a better series? Or actually, let's go the opposite, since this is how we build our show. Who has a worse series? I've been saving that one for
like 30 minutes, man. I've been waiting. I had to throw it in before we were done.
Face down, ass up.
Yeah, exactly. I've been thinking about it for a while, Loco. You had to let me say it at some point.
You've been thinking about it for a long fucking time.
Oh yeah, as soon as it was.
I'm sure you're gonna be thinking about it after the show too.
Oh yes, definitely.
Who's God damn. Who has a worse series? Kabe or Turtle?
Kabe or Turtle?
Yeah.
I think Turtle is definitely the worst part of FlyQuest.
Yes, but who has a worse series? That's what I'm saying.
Turtle. Well, the thing is, Turtle fucks up and then he picks it back up later. Kabe's just like there in the mid game and then he fucks up later.
Yeah.
He felt like a better FBI to me. FBI was getting caught and existed. It felt like Kabe just existed.
TSM doesn't really like doesn't really punish support roams really that well. So it's weird to say because what is TSM versus FlyQuest? Are they 0-2?
I'll check. Didn't they win the tiebreaker against them, I think?
No, they didn't play a tiebreaker.
There's no tiebreaker. I know they lost the first one. It was 10k goldie. I don't remember the second game.
I think TSM beat them because I think Nick had the opportunity to. That's what I remember. Nick having the opportunity to knock him out. Yeah, they were 1-1.
So what was the second game? What was that game? Anyone have context of the game? I'll remember it once we like talk about champions. I just don't remember what the game was.
So people are saying it's 1-1.
Yeah,
I'm pulling it up now. Week 9, I think. It was FlyQuest.
It wasn't week 9.
Oh, it was knocking out Team Liquid, not TSM. That's what I remembered.
It was the Bjergsen Aurelia game where they dove top.
Oh.
Was that against Viper though? Might have been against Viper. Like if it's against Viper, it doesn't really count.
Solo came in way later. Yeah, so it has to be Viper.
It was Set, Top, Bjergsen, Aurelia. Then
that game could be potential.
That game was a stomp.
Yeah, that game was pretty stompy. Bjergsen played really well that game. I don't know. It's weird. Actually, like thinking about it more, I feel like TSM should win again.
Really?
Like, it's another.
I'm gonna stay with Fly.
Yeah, I'll go TSM 3-2 again, because the more I think about it, it's the same way that I perceive them playing against 100 Thieves, and 100 Thieves theoretically is a better team than FlyQuest. Right?
What?
Like,
what?
I don't think. Well, I mean, they outranked them in the series. Like, what argument could you make for FlyQuest being better than 100 Thieves?
They put in Solo.
Definitely better mid. Definitely better support. I would say actually, I think a lot of FlyQuest losses came from having Viper. I think FlyQuest with Solo is better than 100 Thieves. Where is 100 Thieves better other than Someday Solo?
I would say that 100 Thieves in general has just been a better like late game team. Like they're better at like playing throughout the game. I'd say Cody Sun has been way better.
I was gonna say
Cody Sun.
I think Cody Sun has been way better. I mean that's the same thing for 100 Thieves versus every team, and they're always better enough. And I think didn't they win the last time they played against them? That was like the Aatrox versus Ornn game where they invaded Santorin. I think it was like Meteos playing Trundle. Yeah, isn't 100 Thieves just better than that? Like, no, they played into Solo and beat them. 100 Thieves played versus FlyQuest
in the tiebreaker.
Was it the Trundle game?
It was in the tiebreaker.
Yes, it was. It was Trundle. Was it in the tiebreaker?
Well, they won the tiebreaker against them.
Did they play in the tie? I thought FlyQuest played versus. Oh wait, did they? Okay, yeah, maybe it was that. There was a game that I remember that might have that I think was before that where they played it, where it was like the really bad wave split. So yeah, I mean 100 Thieves just like was better than FlyQuest like when they played against each other. Didn't they win? Didn't they beat them twice? I think they beat them twice at the end of the season. Once in the tiebreaker and then once in that Ornn game. So yeah, I'd say that like just FlyQuest is just better at what they do. Or sorry, 100 Thieves is just better at what they do than FlyQuest.
Being the late game team.
Well, yeah, I think that they're just top. Their advantages are just bigger. Like the gap between Cody Sun and Turtle is bigger than the gap between Ryoma and Power People. And I'd say because of the way that like Santorin plays, Meteos is like not super pressure. I feel like the junglers that fuck with Meteos the most are like the Blabbers of the world, the fucking like aggressive early game people that are gonna just like shit on him. Closer, I think, does better. But I think that into like Santorin, he plays more standardized, and then Meteos is like comfortable, you know? So I guess, yeah, my perception was just that 100 Thieves was just a better team than FlyQuest after seeing them just beat them multiple times.
I'm still going to fight FlyQuest for the TSM one. I think FlyQuest is mid and late game, while still worse than 100 Thieves. It's going to be good enough to beat TSM. And Ignar Power People will actually be the ones getting advantage for mid lane, not the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on draft a lot. I think if TSM's smart and they can prioritize, like, so FlyQuest looks best when Ignar is on Blitzcrank or Rakan. You know, those are the champions. Like, you need engaged champions for Ignar. If they're able to get him off that, I think then TSM can win pretty easily. I think that they should just be able to like have like advantage towards topside. I think that Solo is good 1v1. I don't think that he's the best at dealing with multiple people in his lane.
Yeah. When there's multiple people in his lane, you'll know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But that's what TSM's strength has been. And even when they beat 100 Thieves, right? Like they were mainly playing like top centric drafts. Even game 5, like they're giving BB the draft resource. He's either getting Aatrox into Ornn, which is a good matchup. He's getting Kalista into Aatrox, which is a good matchup. He's getting Pantheon into Set, which he solo killed him level 2. So I assume that he's practiced that and he likes that matchup. That's something that they picked into it.
The Huni counter pick.
Yeah, and then he got GP into Aatrox, which is solid matchup too. So like BB gets a good matchup every single time. So I don't know. I feel like TSM. I feel the same way about it. Like just because TSM choked so hard versus 100 Thieves, I was like, damn, I like don't want to support this team. Like I don't want to like say this team is gonna win. But like I'm gonna use the same logic that I had when I said that they're gonna be better than 100 Thieves, even though or win versus 100 Thieves, even though they're lower seeded. Is that this team, like. This team in general, like looked better in the games that they played so like when TSM played against FlyQuest, they looked better for the majority of both of those games. Like they were winning, even though it was 1-1, same as 100 Thieves, they were winning for more of the games than they were losing.
All right. Well, there you go. I think that's pretty clear predictions here for both of them. We got a split. I think I'll go TSM as well. I think they have the star power to step up and keep that dream alive, especially since you already played through Kabe and Kabe's broken.
Something else that has value, I feel like when you just came off a really hard series and you won, gives you momentum. Like getting that close win, I think is good for a team going into the next series.
It was such a stretch of a window. It wasn't like, oh man, things were so hard, and then we like all came together and we barely edged it out. It's more like
Bjergsen dragged these body bags across the finish line.
I think afterwards the conversation isn't like a good conversation for that team.
Yeah, probably not a great conversation, but I think that feeling wise, you know, like that's the type of shit when you win the game, you're like, fuck yes, like let's go, you know? That's a hype win, you know.
Successful heist.
Yeah,
I'm a touch. What was Peters?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna touch baby tonight.
I'm gonna touch my boy tonight. Yeah.
What, he's trying to give him Corona before the fucking matches? What is he like? He's saying that he played so bad he's gonna give him Corona. I don't get it. Why is he touching him, bro? 6 feet apart. Chill out.
All right.
Well, there's that.
I think there you go. Thanks for watching TSM Legends. That closes it out here for us. Anything else before we move on and close things out?
No, I'm still not over. I'm still not over Doms.
What, the ego lands face down?
Yeah. Oh,
dude, we were prepping that one, man. I just needed to fit it in. I knew I was getting it in the show, though. I knew I was getting it in the show at some point.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We're gonna go back to normal schedule Tuesday. Actually, should we go Tuesday or just keep it Monday?
I like Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so back to Tuesday next week to take a day to decompress from the matches, and hopefully we have some bangers here. No more duds. Yeah. Anyways, we'll catch you later. See ya on Valorant or either on the Rift. See ya.